आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्धना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणु परकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वाल्मीकिर्मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं कुनयाति परां गतिं वेदवेदे परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदः प्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना अंजनानंदनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लंका भयंकरं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि आञ्जनेयमदिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीय विग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनं यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकं नमस्सदसे। This day being a very auspicious day, being a Sunday, Ravivaram, this day has been chosen for being the last day in the series of Srimad Ramayana Navaham, where Rama comes in the some more chairs. Okay, so they need to put some extra chairs. So let Surya wait for some time.
Also, some of the younger youngsters, please come and sit in the ground over here in the front, so that when the elders come, they can sit.
See, some of the youngsters may not be used to sitting on the floor. Even if you extend your legs and sit, I have no problem.
Also, when we say youngsters, we don't mean biologically. We mean those who are young at heart, who can take the risk and sit on the floor.
Yeah. And keep the last few rows empty. It's easier because if somebody comes in the front and walks, avadi papa. Mama minnal.
ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೋಬೇಡ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಮಂಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ
Sridhar, turn it off. Sridhar, turn it off.
ஓங்கி உலகளந்த புத்தமன் பேர் படி நாங்கள் நம்பவைக்கு சாற்று நீராடினால் தீங்கின்றி நாடெல்லாம் திங்கள் மும்மாறி பெய்து ஓங்கு பெரும் சென்னல் ஊடுகையள் புகழ பூங்குவளை போதில் பொறிவண்டு கண்படுப்ப தேங்கதே புக்கிருந்து சீர்த்த முலை பற்றி வாங்க கூடம் நிறைக்கும் வள்ளல் பெரும் பசுக்கள் நீங்காத செல்வம் நிறைந்து. In Sanātana Dharma, there is a belief that when there is a yajnam happening, be it a yajnam through Agni or a Shravana yajnam such as this, and in the middle if it stops, then to resume it you will have to invoke Trivikrama and start. So when a yajnam stops, we say Trini Padani Vichakrame Tredani Dadhe Padam, and then we begin. Or a Tamil Pasuram which invokes Trivikrama. So that's the custom. This day being a very auspicious day, because it is a Ravivaram, Rama comes in the lineage of Surya. It is Surya Vamsham. And the one who blessed Sri Rama during his internship days, the 6 nights, was Rishi Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra is the one who could see Gayatri Mahamantram through his eyes. Remember, it is often said Vishwamitro Rishihi when we invoke Gayatri Mantra. It doesn't mean Vishwamitra invented Gayatri Mantra. Vishwamitra could discover Gayatri Mantra, which was already there. He was a Mantra Drashta. He could see the Mantram through his eyes. So, the Gayatri, which is a format, Gayatri is a Chandas. It is a meter. Any meter which has 24 aksharams in it is Gayatri. Gayatri Chandasam Mata. 3/4 of Anushtup is Gayatri. 32 letters make Anushtup Chandas. We have Vishnu Sahasranamam largely in Anushtup Chandas. It has 32 letters. 3/4 of that, which is 8 into 3, 24 letters, is Gayatri Mantram. So Gayatri is a meter. There is a Gayatri for every Devata. The Gayatri invoking the grace of the sun, Surya, is called Surya Gayatri, which is also called Savitri. This Gayatri Mantram, which begins with, how does it begin? Huh? Bhur, right? Bhur Bhuva Suvaha is an introduction to the mantra. Mantram doesn't begin there. It begins with Tat Sat. That is Gayatri. From there only the count begins. So while Valmiki was a lot perplexed about what should be done when Rama himself has abandoned his pregnant wife Sita in the forest, day 1, last Saturday, August 6th, at about 4:10 p.m., I spoke about how Narada comes and answers the questions raised by Valmiki, and later, after uttering the curse on the hunter, Manishadayat Pratishthantvam, Brahma comes and says, no, you will be blessed with the sight to see what has happened in Rama's life, whatever is known to the general public and which has also not caught the eyes of the general public. Rahasyam cha prakasham cha. At that point in time, Brahma Patni, Saraswati and Savitri also come. Savitri says, Valmiki, I shall be present in the manuscript that you write. So that Savitri, who is Surya Gayatri, who is Tatsaviturvarenyam, has 24 letters. So even without the knowledge of Valmiki, Savitri was able to bless her every letter in Srimad Ramayana. So the first letter of the first verse of every set of 1,000 verses, when you put together, you get Gayatri Mantra. So Srimad Ramayanam is essentially a pramanam which has Gayatri Mantram embedded in it. So the compilation of the shlokas that determine Gayatri Mantram is called Gayatri Ramayanam. But do not get confused, this Gayatri Ramayanam is not something which was composed by someone. It is the same shlokas chosen from Valmiki's Ramayanam. Now I shall recite Gayatri Mantram through Ramayanam here. Tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidambaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir Munipungavam. This is shloka number 1. It begins with Ta. 1001th shloka is Sahatva Rakshasan Sarvan Yagnagnan Raghunandanaha Rishibhir Pujita Samyak Yathendro Vijayi Pura. It begins with Sa. Previous one was Ta. Now this is Sa. Tat Sa. Next. Vishwamitrastu dharmatma Shrutva Janaka Bhashitam Vatsarama Dhanuv Pashya Idiraghavam Abravit. This begins with V. This is 2001th shloka. Tat Sa Vi. Next. We have 3001 shloka. Tushtavasya tada vamsham pravishya cha vishampatehe shayaniyam narendrasya tada sadhya vyatishthata tu. Tat Sa Vi Tu. It goes on. Vanavasam hi sankhyaya vasamsya bharanani cha bhartaramanu Sita ishvashuro dadau va. Raja satyam cha dharmascha raja kulavatam kulam raja mata pita chaiva raja hitakaro nrinam ra. Nirikshya samuhurtam tu dadarsha bharato gurum utaje ramamasinam jata mandaladharinam ni. Yadi buddhi krita drashtum agastyam tam mahamunim adyaiva gamane buddhim rojayasva mahayashaha ya भरतस्यार्य पुत्रस्य श्वश्रूणा मम च प्रभो मृगरूपमिदं व्यक्तं विस्मयं जनयिष्यति गच्छ शीघ्रमितो रामः सुग्रीवं तं महाबलं वयस्यं तं कुरुं क्षिप्रम् इतो गत्वाद्य राघव देशकालो प्रतीक्षस्व क्षममाणः प्रिया प्रियौ सुखदुःखसह काले सुग्रीव वशगो भवद् वन्द्यास्ते तु तपःसिद्धा तपसा वीतकल्मषाः प्रष्टव्या चापि सीतायाः प्रवृत्तिं विनयान्वितैः वा स निर्जित्य पुरीं श्रेष्ठां लङ्कां तां कामरूपिणीं विक्रमेण महातेजा हनुमान् मारुतात्मजः स धन्याः देवास गन्धर्वा सिद्धाश्च परमर्षयः मम पश्यन्ति ये नाथं रामं राजीवलोचनं मङ्गलाभिमुखी तस्य सा तदासीन् महाकपेः उपतस्थे विशालाक्षी प्रयता हव्यवाहनं हितं महात्तं मृदुहेतु संहितं व्यतीतकाला यदि सम्प्रतीक्षमं निशम्य तद्वाक्यमुपस्थितज्वरः प्रसङ्गवातान्नुतरमेतदब्रवीत् हि धर्मात्मा रक्षसां श्रेष्ठः सम्प्राप्तोऽयं विभीषणः लङ्कैश्वर्यं ध्रुवं श्रीमान् अयं प्राप्नोत्यकण्टकं यो वज्रपाताशनि सन्निपातं न चुक्षुभेनापि चचाल राजा स रामबाणाभिहतो वृषातश्चचाल चापं च मुमोच वीरः यस्य विक्रममासाद्य राक्षसा निधनं गताः तं मन्ये राघवं वीरं नारायणमनामयं न ते दृष्टशिरे रामं दन्तमरिवाहिनी मोहिता परमास्त्रेण गान्धर्वेण महात्मना न प्रणम्य देवताभ्यश्च ब्राह्मणेभ्यश्च मैथिली बद्धाञ्जलिपुटा चेममुवाचमग्निसमीपितः चलनात् पर्वतेन्द्रस्य गणादेवाश्च कम्पिताः चचाल पार्वती चापि तदा सृष्टा महेश्वरं च दारापुत्रा पुरं राष्ट्रं भोगाच्छादन भोजनं सर्वमेवाभिवं भक्तं नौ भविष्यति हरीश्वर यामेव रात्रिं शत्रुघ्नः पर्णशालां समाविशत् तामेव रात्रिं सीतापि प्रसूता दारकद्वयं इदं रामायणं कृत्स्नं गायत्री बीजसंयुतं त्रिसन्ध्यं यः पठे नित्यं सर्वपापः प्रमुच्यते. So Gayatri Ramayanam with all the letters in the same order in 24,000 shlokas is a magical feat in Sanātana Dharma. Now in Yuddha Kandam, after Vibheeshana Pattabhishekam, the beauty about Vibheeshana Pattabhishekam is when Vibheeshana reached and sought asylum at the feet of Sri Rama, the first question was, did he come for the Rajyam? Yesterday we have answered that doubt. He didn't come for the Rajyam. The beauty is, Rama says, Lakshmana, go fetch the oceanic waters. Lakshmana does that. He says, make Vibheeshana the king of Lanka now. They were in Bharatadesha. Lakshmana was a bit confused. We have not found a way how to go to Lanka. We do not know whether we will be able to win over Ravana. We do not know what will happen next. But you're asking me to make him the king of Lanka. Well, my brother has said, so I am the Dasa. So he went, brought the oceanic water, sprinkled it on the head of Vibheeshana and said, recited the verses saying that he will be the next Abhishekta Raja of Lanka. Now Sugreeva had a doubt. He came closer to Rama and said, see, I need to talk to you in private. And he said, see, yesterday this Vibheeshana came. He said, what, I have realized my mistake. My brother shouldn't have done this. I advised my brother, but he seems to pay no heed to what I say. So I have come over to your Rajyam. I am seeking asylum at your feet. And you have given Lanka to him. Imagine tomorrow Ravana comes. He says, Swami, I have committed a mistake. You have already given Lanka to Vibheeshana. What will you do with Ravana next? He said, don't worry, I will ask Bharata to hand over Ayodhya to him. So now Vibheeshana came. Vibheeshana Sharanagathy was done. Pattabhishekam was also done. The next idea was to take the monkeys across the ocean from Bharatadesham to Lanka. As we understand today, if you know the map of Bharatadesham, as you come down the coast of Odisha, Andhra, and then to the Dravida Desham, which is Tamil Nadu, then as you come down, you come across a very important kshetram called Vedaranyam. That's a very important Shaiva kshetra. You come across Nagapattinam, which is called Shivarajadhani. Those of you who have been learning classical Carnatic music, I'm sure you'll come across Muthuswami Dikshitar's Kriti. Shivarajadhani kshetravasini chidrupa vilasini amba nilayadakshi. Shivarajadhani is Nagapattinam. Below that is Vedaranyam. Much below that is that strategic point in the coast of India, which is in Tamil Nadu, which is very, very close to Lanka. But Rama did not choose that. He went further down to construct the Setu. Why? Because the depth of the oceanic waters between the coast of India and Lanka was so very deep. The depth was so very high that they needed a lot of materials and human effort to fill that depth. Whereas when they reached Pullani, the Kshetram, Tirupullani, construction was a lot more easier because naturally there was an oceanic ridge there between the two countries. There was an inflamed portion of the oceanic bed which was inflamed and swollen. So because of the swollen part, it was a lot more easier to fill that particular gap. So before construction of the bridge, he had to take the Green Tribunal's permission because you're using the aquatic waters. So Varunalayam, the king of the waters, Varuna, is also called the Samudra Raja. So Rama thought, let me go on a Prayopavesham. I shall fast until he gives me clearance. So he sleeps on a bed made of darbha grass. Tatasagaravelayam darbhanastirya raghavaha Anjalim pramukha kritva pratishishye mahodade. Anjali. What is Anjali? Oriyali, rendali? Is that Anjali? So, you put your palms together and this is called Anjali mudra even in Natya Shastra. Why is it called Anjali? Jalayaditi Anjalihi. See, I generally do Anjali to somebody standing opposite me or to a group of people standing opposite me, either an individual, Ekavachanam or Bahuvachanam. So when an individual or a group stand in front of me and I do Anjali, traditionally and technically, this Hastam says, you are very, very important to me. I shall serve you the way you want. I am your dasa. I am your servant. Dasosmi. Dasasmi. So when the man says dasosmi, in grammar, the lady should say dasasmi. So it's not dasosmi for the woman. It will change. So it's dasasmi. So when you put your palms together and you say either say dasosmi or dasasmi, the person standing opposite us will be made to feel humble. He will feel, oh, this man is so respectful towards me. So he should technically, I'm not speaking realistically, start shedding tears. So tears should start rolling down one's cheeks. When I do this mudra, the person standing opposite me should feel helpless. Oh, this man is so humble. So this mudra in me makes the person shed tears. Tear is So jalayati, since it makes the person opposite me shed tears, this mudra is called Anjali. So here Valmiki says, Anjalim prangmukha krutva pratishishye mahodadehe bahum bhujanga bhogabham upadhaya sa arisudanaha jatarupamayaschaiva bhushanai bhushitam pura. So as he laid the bed of darbha grass, he is today invoked in that kshetram as Darbha Shayana Rama. Tirupulani is known for two things. One, Darbha Shayana Rama, and the payasam which is made there. So naturally, automatically, the latter takes prominence in most videos. Well, Rama was lying on the bed of Darbha grass. As per Shastram, I have mentioned, I think on day 3 or day 4, you're not recommended to fast on any day that you like. At times, some people may feel, okay, if my son gets into this particular college, I will fast on every Monday. Very noble thought of yours. But Shastram doesn't recommend that. You have to fast only on Ekadashi. What if I'm not able to fast on Ekadashi? Feast on every day. That is okay, but don't fast. So Rama did something which was not actually adhering to the Shastra. Nevertheless, he was doing it for his beloved Sita. Everything is fair in love, and now there's going to be war as well. So, Kamban, the Tamil poet, tells when Rama was reclining towards the ocean, overlooking the ocean, how was it? So there is one ocean on one side and Rama on the other side. Kamban tells, Karunai Karunamangayai mitpithu orneri taruga ennum porul nayandu nalnu neri adukkiya pullil karunayam kadal kidandanai karungadal nokki varuna mandiram enninan vidimurai vanangi. So on one side was the ocean, that was saline waters. Oh, samudrasya jalam lavanam. On the other side was not Rama. Kamban tells there was this ocean looking to another ocean. This was an ocean of salty waters, and this is an ocean of immaculate mercy. So he is telling here is the immaculate mercy ocean looking at the salty waters ocean. Which one would you prefer, he asks. Karunayam kadal karungadalai nokki kidandadamma. This ocean is looking at the salty waters there. So as Rama did, 3 days, no reply. Similar to the customer support. Tasya Ramasya Suptasya Kushastirne Mahitale Niyamada Pramatasya Nishasti Stobhi Jagmatuhu Saratri Roshitas Tatra Nayagno. So, Ma Pramade Ma Karishihi. He was completely in Pramadam. I don't know how many of us use this word. In the South Indian parlance, if the food is exquisite and excellent, if something is beyond what we have imagined, pramadam. But pramadam in Sanskrit means forgetfulness. So imagine you've served somebody with lavish food, and at the end of it, you ask, how was it? Pramadam. If you're very good at Sanskritam, did I forget something? You should ask. Because only if you forget something, it's called pramadata, pramadam. Pramadam does not mean great. So think about it twice before you use this, after at least this lecture. So, Upasata Tadaramaha Sagaram Saritam Patim. At that point in time, Rama got really angry. Vibheeshana came and said, 3 days is over, sir. Look at the stop clock. It's all done. This man doesn't seem to heed to your request. He's not answering. At that point in time, Rama got really angry. Raktanta Lochanaha. The corners of his eyes started getting red. That is when he said, Chabamanaya Saumitre. O Sumitra's son. Saumitre means Sumitra's son. Saumitre technically also applies to. If you come only on the 9th day, that's the problem. Shatrugna. So, but Though it may apply to Shatrughna, here it won't, because the one present is only Lakshmana. See, Sindha Desham is around some parts of Rajasthan and Gujarat and large parts of South Pakistan. So that is Sindha Desham. So in those days, horses that were bred in Sindha Desham were regarded as of very, very high caliber. So a horse is referred to as Saindavam. Sindhu means the river as well as the ocean. So that which is a product of the ocean is also Saindhavam. So salt is also called Saindhavam. So the horse is also called Saindhavam. Salt is also called Saindhavam. But if I am eating curd rice and I say bring Saindhavam, you will not bring the horse. So you will look into the context. So he says, Chapamanaya Saumitre, O son of Sumitra. Why did he have to call Lakshmana as Sumitra's son? Because your mother has advised you, Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi Mam Vidhi Janakatmajam Ayodhyam Atavim Vidhi Gachata Tayata Sukam. My dear son, from today onwards, Rama is your father, Sita is your mother. The place where you reside shall be Ayodhya. Listen to what he says. Rame Pramadam Makarishihi. Listen to what Rama says. So dear Lakshmana, don't even think of disobeying me. Your son of Sumitra, go get it. Chapam Anaya Saumitre. So Chapam Anaya, go get my bow and the quiver of arrows. What did he mean? The commentator says that he meant this ocean is not budging. In Tamil it is better to say, even Valaya Villai. என் வளைந்த வில்லை வைத்து இவனுக்கு கூறுகிறேன். So he is not budging. So I shall show him his place with the bow that has budged. So Lakshmana is a bit worried. Chapamanaya Saumitre Sharams Chashi Vishopamam Sagaram Soshaishyami Padbhyam Yantif Plavangamaha. Then if I dry up the oceans here, probably I don't have to worry about constructing a bridge, then checking if which of the monkeys can swim and those cannot. I can just walk them over through the dry oceanic beds and reach Lanka. Well, while Rama took the arrow from his quiver and was about to fit into the bow and was about to release it, it seems the Samudra Raja came. Trahimam, Trahimam. Samudra Raja said, see, at one point in time you are also my son-in-law, because his daughter is Lakshmi. Lakshmi Kshira Samudra Raja Tanayam Sriranga Dhameshwarim. So you have been my son-in-law. How can I go with empty hands? I have to buy some gifts for you. So I was just looking at my oceanic bed to check which of the Titanics have collapsed, so that I can take some sapphires and diamonds from it, string it together and bring a beautiful gift to you. There is a beautiful verse in Sri Rangarajastavam by a great Acharya come poet called Parashara Bhatta. He says how river Kaveri, often in Sanātana Dharma, though we see them as pieces of nature, we also personify them as a deity. The rivers are especially treated as deities. Ganga Devi, Yamuna Devi. Now you may be checking where is the Devi inside the H2O there. But this is how we see nature as. So Kaveri, she begins from a mountain called Kutakachalam. What is Kutakachalam? Kodagu is called Kutakachalam in Sanskritam. Narayana Bhattadri uses this name in Narayaniyam. So when Kaveri begins from Kutakachalam, it seems she is excited about meeting her daughter Ranganayaki and her son-in-law Ranganatha in Srirangam. It's quite a distance. So she has to travel from the mountains of Kutakachalam to Srirangam. So on the way, in her sojourn to Srirangam, it seems the trees of Chandana, sandalwood, that have been hanging, those branches fall into her waters and they rub against each other and the sandal paste comes into the waters, adding good flavor and fragrance. And then there are devotees who want their wishes to get fulfilled, and they throw some pockets of bunches of diamonds and emeralds and rubies. Well, do people really do that? You know, there is an inscription in the Bazaar street of Hampi, which was the erstwhile capital of the Vijayanagara dynasty from 1336 till about the mid of the 17th century. There is an inscription. After 5 p.m. in the evening in the Bazaar street, the merchants used to come and sell diamonds in packets to the commoners. So diamonds and emeralds and sapphires and even opals and amethyst was thrown into the water. So she would carry the fragrance of sandal and all these precious gems to present them to her daughter and her son-in-law in Srirangam. So as she comes running from Kutakachalam, the waters of Kaveri come, then she jumps at one place which is called Hogganekkal. Then she jumps at another place, Shivana Samudram. These are all places that gives her excitement. And as she crosses Erode and Karur and Mohanur, and as she comes near Tiruchirappalli, she spots Seshapeetham where her son-in-law is reclining with her daughter Ranganayaki. So as she comes closer to Srirangam, she wants to embrace the both of them. So she distributes herself as the northern Kaveri and the southern Kaveri and makes that land an islet in the fresh waters. Dugdabhir Janako Jananyahamiyam Srireva Putri Varaha Srirangeshwarameta Darhamya Kim Kuruva Miti Vakula Chanchamara Chandra Chandana Mahamadikya Muktotkaran Kaveri Lari Karair Vidhadadi Devasahaiva Shriya. So Kaveri becomes the mother, Oceanic King Varunalayam becomes the father, daughter is Mahalakshmi, who is Sita. So Narayana as Rama is the son-in-law. So the Oceanic King says, I took little time to bring some gifts for you. Do you get Kim Kopa Moolam Manujendra Putra? By then my son-in-law has gotten angry. So Rama said, did you think that I was getting angry at you? Samayaniki Rangeshudu Sadganga Jana Kudu Sankita Sampradaya Kudu Samaya Nikita Mataladene Vanitara Sada Sukkajeyu Chunno Brukajese Sukkajeyu Chunne Brukajese. So people will get so very melted by the way he talks. That is when it seems Samudra Raja said that there are certain tribes that are polluting some of the rivers that come into me in the northwestern part of this land. So could you please take care of them? That is when Rama, now he was looking south. In the same place he turned northwest and shot the same arrow towards that place. It is believed that the efficacy of the astram was so much so that it dried up those places so that the demons won't have an opportunity to throw pollutants into the river. That place which became dry, some researchers say it became Marukantaram, which is the desert called Thar in the northwest of India. So this is where Kuresha, one of the other acharyas, wonders. You were acting as if there was no way for you but to construct the bridge, take all the monkeys to Lanka, which is just 100 yojanas away. You were acting as if you were super worried. But from the same place, you shot a missile which was 2000 miles away and created a Marukantaram. You could have done the same with Lanka. I could have concluded the discourse yesterday. I wouldn't need the 9th day at all. Tvam dakshinasya nivasan udadhestatepi durantarottara payodhi mahantaripe daitya nijaikasha shara parayan kimetam lankam sthitotra kurushe nakila sma bhasma, says Kuresha. Now, the bridge had to be constructed. That is when Varunalaya, the Oceanic King, said, see, you have a great architect in place. There is this Vishwakarma's Aparavataram called Nala. Now Nala is such a good architect, he would know what materials are required to be filled to get a very, very strong bridge. Use him as the architect. Use Neela, Jambavan as supervisors. and get a few people who can do the real work. The monkey said, we will do all of it, and they started bringing huge stones. So this distance has been described in Ramayana as Shatayojana Vistirnam, 100 yojanas in length. A yojana, as per some of the researchers, could be 8 miles. So 100 into 8 is 800 miles. The first, because the distance between Bharata's tip in Tirupullani and Lanka, which is near Gulf of Mannar, is not 100 yojanas, which is 800 miles today, it is 35 kilometers. So the first theory is, probably he would have measured from Bharatadesham to where Sita had stayed, which is Nuvarailia, which could be much, it is not 35 kilometers, it could be more than 800, 900 kilometers. That is one theory. Second, due to the tectonic plates which keep changing, the landmass could have moved from the south to the southeast of India. This is the second theory. Third, the calculation that yojana itself is 8 miles could be flawed. Fourth, now what Valmiki says is the bridge that was constructed was 100 yojanas in length, 10 yojanas wide, which is 100 is to 10, which is 10 is to 1. In reality today, the Setu is 35 kilometers in length and 3.5 kilometers wide, which is 35 is to 3.5, which still makes it 10 is to 1. So the ratio is the same, is what some scholars opine. Well, the Setu was constructed. So the first day, 14 yojanas of the Setu were constructed. Second day, good improvement, 20 yojanas. Third day, 21. Fourth day, 22. Fifth day, 23 yojanas were constructed. Now, there is again a theory that they used stones that were of floating nature and they constructed the bridge. Valmiki doesn't make a mention of it. In turn, he tells that trees were chopped and were put over the oceanic ridge, 2 layers of trees, and over which large boulders were placed till they could rise above the waters. Now, this is what the Setu is. Was this Setu in vogue later? Yes. In Sri Mahabharatam, Sahadeva, the last of the Pandavas, goes with his eldest brother Bhima's son Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha belonged to the clan of the Rakshasas called Hidimba. Their distant relatives were in Lanka. Now don't ask me which distant relative. Distant, no? So they were there in Lanka. So he reaches the tip of Bharatam, and that is when he tells, do not worry Sahadeva, you get back to Hastinapuram. I shall walk on the Setu constructed by Rama, meet my relatives and come back. So even during the Mahabharata times, it was in use. So how do we place the time levels? As per the Yuga calculation, we have 43,20,000 years in one Chatur Yuga, thereby making one portion of the 10 parts of this, which is 4,32,000 years in the Kali Yuga and twice in the Dwaparam. But if we look at Yuga through Gautama's Nyaya Sutra, it need not mean so many years. It could mean a certain scale. I did mention about Dasharatha's lifespan on day 1. 60,000 years means he might have ruled for 60 years. So 1 year of his regime is equivalent to 1,000 years of a normal king. So thereby from this we can conclude through research scholars and historians who state that Mahabharata, Ramayana happened around the 5000 to 5500 BC and Mahabharata between 3000 and 3200 BC based on Aihole inscription. So between 5000 and 3000 BC this bridge was still in use. Later it is said around 1400 BC there was a tsunami which destroyed parts of the Setu and some parts of it got submerged. Around till about 1965 there was an island, a peninsular part of the tip of India called Dhanushkoti, where people still lived. So I know of a very age-old couple whom I used to interact with, and they have stayed in Dhanushkoti for over 25 years until the town was ravished by the floods and the hurricanes, so they had to move upwards. So that lady, who's a very well learned lady, she used to tell me to perform Shraddham. It seems they used to take a boat from Dhanushkoti, and the boatman used to take them to the middle of the ocean and then used to say, get down. They used to get down, and till their knee the waters used to reach because they were standing on Setu. And then they would perform Shraddham on the Setu and come back. So it was there in practice till about 1964-1965. Now, Dashayojana Vistirnam Shatayojana Mayatam Dadushur Devagandharva Nalasetum Sudushkaram. So Nalasetu was constructed. 2200 years back, roughly before the Gupta period and around the Maurya period, we have to go to 2nd century BC. There was a work in Prakritam. We have heard of Sanskritam, which is a perfected language. See, the language, you may call it arrogance, but you know what Sanskritam means? That which can't get any more perfect. Kritam means perfect. Sanskritam, I can't get any more perfect. I am perfect. This is how the language calls itself. So because the language had so many aphorisms and grammar, it was not very easy for the commoners to speak this language. So the commoners developed a language, created a language which could be slightly flexible and not that hard on the tongue. It was called Prakritam. So I can cite one verse from my very favorite Acharya Vedanta Deshika, who says, Amma Guruna Machuya Jiya Siya Sannami Laddapa Yitto Padivaya Paramatto Varesi Apandita Attana Mammanam. This is Prakritam. So if you see, look at the words, it doesn't Jada Kirana Shakala Dhara Jatila Natapati Makuta Tatanatana Pattu Vibuddha Saridati. It is an Amma Guruna Machuya Jiya Siya Sannami Laddapa Yitto Padivaya Paramatto. So this is Prakritam. So there was a poet in the Maharashtra region. Any Marathi speaking Astikas here? Very good. So you're from the land of a great poet called Pravarasena. Pravarasena wrote a 2500 versed poem in Prakritam 2200 years back on how the Setu was constructed. It is called Setu Bandhana Kavyam. Just this topic, 2500 verses, how the Setu was constructed. So here I'll just read one or two verses from that particular Kavyam. Arambhante sayaloti avasamo dattu amminallavahe hoyi duhaya samante sochiya anno punno visamiddo. This is Prakritam. So Pali is also very similar what the Buddhists use. Attihi bikko akadayam nattuyetasya jantuno sattam manasa sunnaratanam sampajjayi. This is Pali. What I cited is Prakritam. Now, Vedanta Deshika says, the bridge was constructed between Bharata Desham and Lanka. So the oceanic waters were divided because of the bridge, right? So he says Simantonta. Simantonta means we have a ritual for the women when they turn pregnant, and during the 7th, 8th month juncture, there is a ritual called Simantonayanam, which is the first time the woman's hair is shown a partition. You can see the scalp at that point in time. So until then, it was a custom that women combed this way. Only on the Simantonayanam onwards, her hair parts. So you can see the scalp. Since this process of separating the hair and showing the scalp is called Simantam. So Simantita Sima Samudra, says Vedanta Deshika. It seems Rama did not do Simantam to Sita first. He did it to the oceanic waters. He constructed the bridge and parted the waters so the bridge looked like a Simantam on Samudra Raja, he says. Now, as Rama constructed this, all the monkeys were excited. For them it was visiting a foreign country for the first time without a passport. So, and trust me, there was no wall built there. So they started walking from Bharata Desham. They were excited. And imagine, with humans involved in a overbridge project, projects take more time than what is expected. With monkeys as his engineers and workers he constructed before the stipulated time. So we need to think about whom to use in infrastructure projects. So now when the monkeys started walking towards Lanka, Bhattadri Narayaniyam summarizes this portion. Tvam Sugreevang Gadadi Prabala Kapichamucha Chakra Vikranta Bhumi Chakro Bhikramya Parijaladhi Nishi Charendra Nuja Shri Shriyamana Tat Proktam Shatruvartam Rahasini Shamayan Prarthana Parthayosha Prasta Gnaye Strateja Strata Dudita Gira Labdhavan Madhyamargam. Now, Ravana, understanding this, he sent one spy so that he could spot what is happening in Rama's army. His name was Shuka. Shuka came, and that very moment Vibheeshana was able to recognize this is not one amongst the monkey people. He caught Shuka and took him to Rama. So Shuka said, sorry sir, I came as a spy. I was asked to do this job. Rama said, please stay here, count the number of people, go tell what all weapons we have to Ravana, I have no problem. So then Shuka went, and then Vibheeshana, he sent his 4 friends to check how prepared is Rama's army. Now Sugreeva and the others, the important people in Rama's army, stood at the top of a mountain. And on the other side was Ravana, who was standing on a mountain which was lesser, of lesser height. So Sugreeva jumped from this mountain to that mountain, started pinching, scratching, biting Ravana, took his crown and came back. He was a monkey after all, right? Now he brought that crown, but you'll be surprised. You know what is Sugreeva referred to in the commentaries? When commentaries take place, there should be a name. He should be called Sugreeva, right? He's called Maharaja. So in the traditional commentary patterns, if we refer Maharaja arrived, you may think it is the king. No, it is Sugreeva. At least people in the 60s and 70s can be reminded of a mixer when I say Maharaja. But this Maharaja came. He was called Sugreeva. Now, Sugreeva Maharaja, the moment he brought that crown, Rama said, do you think you have done something remarkable, Sugreeva? What if Ravana had killed you? Then I wouldn't be elated even after winning over Sita, because you are my friend. I would have lost you. Think before you do anything, Sugreeva. So that is when, after Rama told all this, the army gets ready for the battle. Indrajit, Ravana dispatches his very valorous son called as Indrajit on the battle day. Indrajit releases Astram. So there are 2 words that you may come across in our scriptures. One is Shastram and second is Astram. Shastram is any object is a Shastram. Even mic can become a Shastram in parliament. So this is a Shastram. But if I inject a particular deity's mantram and release it, it becomes an Astram. So Shastram plus mantram is equal to Astram. So if I use an arrow and use Agneya mantram into it, it becomes Agneyastram, Varunastram, Pashupatastam, Brahmastram. These were the astras used. In Sri Mahabharatam, there is a famous astram that we come across, which is Nagastram. If you remember Sri Mahabharatam, on the day Karna fights, because Karna couldn't fight on the battlefield till Bhishma fought. There was a vow, till Bhishma is the commander-in-chief, I will not fight. So the moment Bhishma was put on the bed of arrows, Karna comes into foray, and then Drona also lost his life to Drishtadyumna. Then comes Karna Parva. So when Karna comes and fights, he had promised Kunti that he will not kill any of his brothers or her children, but will fight Arjuna. So at that point in time, Shakuni invokes a particular snake which had rivalry with Arjuna. He was called Takshaka. Because when the cap, is it very confusing? You should get used to it. All these characters, then where will I be? Every character, if I keep giving abbreviations and bibliography, then the Upanyasam will not go forward. So there is an assumption that you are all people who can clear the doubts of Valmiki and Vyasa if they have doubts. So, when a part of Kuru Bhumi was given to the Pandavas, it was called Kandava Prastham. So that had forest infested with many snakes. That is when Krishna and Arjuna go around the Kandava Prastham. During that expedition, Takshaka goes away. He is settled there with his family. He gets really mad at Arjuna. So he is bearing a rivalry on Arjuna. So Shakuni, who knows this, how intelligent Shakuni is, he must be reading the newspaper and everything thoroughly. He invokes Takshaka and says, Takshaka, you fit yourself into the astram of Karna and let you be released on Arjuna. That is when Krishna gives a lot of pressure to his chariot, thereby putting the chariot 1 foot down. Thereby the astram which was aimed at Arjuna hits his crown and goes away. There is a saying in Tamil, Talaikku vandadu talapagoda pochu. So, now look in Srimad Mahabharatam, this Takshaka who is now again defeated. He wanted to attack Arjuna, but he couldn't. He bears this rivalry till Arjuna's grandson Parikshit comes and he kills him. So snakes were used. It is believed in the literature, I don't know in reality, I'm no zoologist. So it is believed that snakes too have elephant-like memory, so they can remember. So snakes were fit in the astram, in the shastram, and those became Naga astram, and Indrajit released them on Rama and Lakshmana. Imagine there was a viper, cobra, whatever snakes that we all know from National Geographic. This is our exposure. Now, this astram came and attacked Rama and Lakshmana, and those snakes started coiling around the bodies of Rama and Lakshmana. That is when Garuda Vahana Pandita, he was a well-known medical practitioner in Lanka, and Vibheeshana had his contact number. See, Vibheeshana is there with them, right? So Sri Lanka's SIM works there. So he immediately texted Garuda Vahana and said, you come here and advise what we should be doing. Then he started writing one prescription, which alone he can understand. So he said, I want this chlorophytum, Burivilyanam, Sandhani, Vishalyakarani. By the time he could give the prescription, there was a sound that everybody could hear. That was that of Garuda. Garuda started coming to this battlefield. Vedanta Deshika beautifully describes the movement of Garuda through one of his very well-known smaller compositions in a very peculiar poetic format called a Dandakam. Garudam akhila veda needadhirudam dvishatpida nodkantita kuntha vaikuntha piti kritaskandamide svanida gatiprita rudrasu kirti sanabhoga gadhopa gudas puratkantaka vrata veda vyatha vepamana dvijihvadi pakalpa vishvaryamana spatavatika ratna rochis chatarajini rajitam kanti kallolini rajitam jaya garuda suparna Darvi karahara devadi pahara harin divaukaspati kshipta damboli dhara kina kalpa kalpanta vatula kalpodayanalpa veera dinodya chamatkara daityari daitya dhvajaroha nirdharitotkarsha sankarshanatman garutman marutpanchakadisha satyadi murtena kaschitna samaste punaste namaste namaha namaidamajahatsa paryaya paryaya niryata pakshani lasphala no dvela patoti vici chapeta hatagada patala bankara samkruddha nagendra pida srini bhava bhasvannatha shrena ye chanda tundaya nritya bhujanga bruve vajrine damshtraya tubhyam adhyatma vidya videya videya bhavaddasya mapadayeta dayetaschamin manuranugata pakshi vaktras purattara kastava kaschitra bhanu priyashekarastrayatam nastrivarga pavargas prasu Sudif Paravyoma Daman Vanadveshi Darpad Varajvala Kilya Pratigyavatirna Sthiram Tattva Buddhim Param Bhakti Denum Jagan Mulakande Mukunde Mahananda Doktrin Ahinam Ahinantaka. He says how the Garuda flies. If you look at Vedanta Deshika's poem called Paduka Sahasram, there is a poetic format called Garuda Gati Bandham. It traces the pattern in which a Garuda flies. He composes a shloka. It's called Garuda Gati Bandham. So there is a ratio between each of the words, how they appear. Now, Garuda came to the spot. These snakes could sense the presence of Garuda and they started uncoiling from the bodies and they started going into the holes of the ground. Well, after Garuda came and then the snakes went and then Rama got up, he looked at Garuda and said, "Sir, may I know who you are?" Garuda had the shock of his life. "I have been carrying you all this long and you are asking, Mundram Piraya, who are you? Yarni? You are asking? Huh? You are asking who you are?" Now, my Pracharya, my Acharya's Acharya, the Acharya who taught me Sri Bhashyam, Karunakaracharya Swami's father, whose your teacher is called Pracharya. So my Pracharya was a great poet. He was an Ashu Kavi called Srinidhi. Srinidhi Swami in one of his poems states, when Garuda came and the Lord asked who you are, he must not be fumbling, he should have an answer, right? So he creates an imaginary conversation and a very convincing answer what Garuda would have given to Rama. He says, Garuda was witnessing all that was happening in the battlefield of Lanka between Rama's army and that of Ravana, who was succeeded by his son Indrajit. So Garuda was very, very troubled to see his master suffering so much. He thought he was helpless because the Lord chose that I shall be a human. Right? If I am a human, suddenly Garuda, suppose imagine we are somewhere caught in the forest, there is one snake, then suddenly Garuda comes with Shankam, Chakram there. So then it proves that we are no normal creature, right? So he did not want to take away from Rama's vow of pledge that he is a normal human being. So he was a lot troubled. That time he was in 302 in Vaikuntham. In 301 was another bird which had obtained Moksham. That was Jatayu. Jatayu had come to Vaikuntham. So while seeing Garuda suffer, Jatayu couldn't take it. He went and told Garuda, you go. No, if I go, Rama will get angry. Why will he get angry? He will say that I am a normal human being. Why did you come and break this? I am a normal human being. Garuda, you shouldn't be coming here. Well, in case he asks you this, then tell him, hey Rama, if you are a normal human being, how did you give Moksham to Jatayu in 301? He will keep quiet. So he said, so this is a beautiful imaginary shloka that my Acharya constructed. Vego dvela suvela kimidamiti mito mantrito vanarendreihi maya manushya lilam abhinayati haro labdha seva visheshaha vaidehi karnapurastabaka surabhinaya samasleshi doshna trishna pariplavanam sabhavatu garudaha dukkhavari plavonaha. Now Ravana, who realized that Rama had come back to consciousness because of Garuda's intervention, comes back to the battlefield and he thinks the only way to bring down the morale of Rama was to either cause injury or kill Lakshmana. Tama patanti bharadanu jagana baner hutagnikalpaihi tathapi sa tasya vibesha shaktir bhujantaram dasharathe vishalam sa shaktima shakti samahatas sanjajwala bhumau raghupraviraha. He wanted to attack Lakshmana. So as he wanted to attack Lakshmana, at that point in time, after his astram struck Lakshmana and Lakshmana swooned on the ground, Ravana wanted to come lift Lakshmana, take him to some unknown place, thereby causing some insecurity in Rama. As Ravana comes and tries lifting Lakshmana, he is not able to. What's so surprising in this, sir? He is the one who once tried lifting Kailasha Parvata. And he is not able to lift Lakshmana. And witnessing that Ravana was trying to lift Lakshmana, Hanuman comes, gives him a blow and lifts Lakshmana just like how you would lift a cotton candy and runs away. So the commentator wonders why the one who tried and who did lift Kailasha Parvatam couldn't lift a Lakshmana. Because his mind and thoughts were completely infested with the wrong kamam for Sita. When your mind is filled with evil thoughts, your body will never cooperate with you, which Hanuman did not have, and so Lakshmana felt like a cotton candy and he took him away. Now, Lakshmana comes back to consciousness, and then he tries aiming Astram at Ravana, and Ravana is defeated very badly. He goes back home. That is when he sits in solitude and starts thinking of all the curses that were pronounced upon him. So he remembers a king of Anaranya of Ayodhya who had said that one descendant of him shall be killing Ravana. He was reminded of the last lady whom he had physically assaulted called Vedavati, who had cursed that there will be a lady who shall be the Karanam for his death. Then he was reminded of Parvati, Umam, Haimavati, her shapam that he shall be killed. He was reminded of the curse uttered by Nandi that the monkeys whom he had insulted shall be a part of the army to decimate him. He was reminded of the curse uttered. He had too many curses on his head. And he was reminded of all of this today. As soon as he was reminded that day, the next day Yuddham, there is a list. There are about 1500 shlokas, verses describing who killed whom, who fought with whom. Rama kills Kumbhakarna, Angada kills Narantaka, Hanuman kills Devantaka, Neela kills Mahodara, Rishabha kills Mahaparshva, Lakshmana kills Adhikaya. So all this happened, and again Indrajit comes. He's the final trump card that Ravana will use. Oh, trump card so he is the last card that was used, and so Indrajit comes and aims the Nagastram again, and all these people swoon on the ground. That is when Garuda Pandita said, last time I started writing a prescription by which Garuda had come, let me finish my prescription. And as he finished, he said, I need 4 kinds of herbs. Mrita Sanjeevani, Vishalyakarani, Suvarnakarani, Sandhani. These are the 4 herbs, the leaves of these herbs that I require. He told this, Garuda Pandita told this to Hanuman. Hanuman had no connection with science. And he had never gotten inside a vegetable market to understand what are the different kinds of leaves that can be cooked and can be consumed. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of the green leaves here that you can cook. Kannadadalli kannadadavaru idaralva illi soppu anta helutteve, and Tamil keera inu solvom. And there are many varieties of those leaves. I don't know how many varieties you get here. You've got polangani, you've got sirikirai, molakirai, pasalakirai, pulichakirai. You have got at least 15-20 varieties. In Bangalore, there's a separate variety called sabaki. So you've got so many varieties, and they have a binomial nomenclature, right? So chlorophytum, borivilianum, all these names is Garuda Vahana Pandita is telling Hanuman. Hanuman was in the, well, where I studied Pilani, we used to call something that doesn't reach you called OHT. It was overhead transmission. So all these botanical names, Hanuman couldn't take it. So he said, okay, because it was emergency. And then he asked, sir, where can I get it? Can I go to one of the supermarkets in Lanka? Or at least close by Tamil Nadu is fine. I know T Nagar quite well. I will not get into Ranganathan Street. I'll somehow spot this and bring this for you. Garuda Vahana Pandita said, these leaves grow in a very different climatic condition. Hanuman, you have to cross the oceanic waters, the land of Dravida, the Tamil Nadu, then Andhra, then Telangana, then Odisha, then Chhattisgarh, then Uttar Pradesh, then Nepal, and get into Tibet. One China, right? So, I don't know, Tibet. And in Tibet, next to Kailasham, there will be a small hillock called Rishabham, and between this will be a smaller hill called Sanjeevani, and in that Sanjeevani hill, these herbs will be there. Next morning, the battle has to begin. He doesn't have a ticket. Hanuman started jumping boulder after boulder, cliff after cliff. He just started jumping. There was no time. After all the efforts he took, he went to the offshoot of the Himalayas, closer to Kailasha Parvatam. There the hillock was filled with leaves. And he forgot what leaves Garuda Pandita had mentioned. So if you are new to cooking, be it your son or daughter, tur dal, urad dal, all dal will look the same. Ekameva advitiyam. They will become Advaitis at that point in time. Every dal will look the same. So what to do? Hanuman thought, if he does a permutation and say, okay, I'll take this, I'll make some choices, some random sampling, I'll take 4 and then go there. If Pandita says, not this, go get that number 3. He has to fly back. But the easiest way is to carry that entire piece of land that has all of it, and he brought it. Like how a child wouldn't want to get into this probability at all and will carry one box full of these spices. It is called Anjarai Petti in Tamil. So he carried that entire hillock and came all this way. It is believed in the Sthala Puranam that a small portion of that hill fell on the way. Since this hill had all the medicinal plants, it was called Aushadhagiri. And that Aushadhagiri which fell off this mountain is found opposite the shrine of Devanatha in Tiruvahindrapuram near Kadalur in Tamil Nadu, and that is where the Lord who bestows quintessential knowledge called Hayagriva resides. So it is called Aushadhagiri. Now, Hanuman goes, he brings that particular hill, and as the smell of those plants reach the noses of these people who have felt unconscious, they all gain back consciousness, and then that was squeezed, and then the medicinal herb was taken. And what happened to the hill? Hanuman went and placed it back in the same place. What is the moral? When we take something from in our house, we have to keep it back in the same place. See, simple moral, right? Hanuman doesn't give us high philosophy, simple things. You take something out of its original place, have the decency to go and keep it back in the same place. Like, who did? Hanuman did. I am not telling. Hanuman did this. Now, Ravana, then the next day he comes and fights with Rama. Then as he fights with Rama, Rama loses his chariot. In those days, besides being an archer, you need to have other weapons as well. You need to store a mace, a spear, all that in the chariot. Chariot was meant to be a storehouse, and it would also lead you to the place where you are fighting. So as he was having a chariot and the chariot was destroyed, remember, there were certain tactics in which you could win over the opposite person. You either kill his charioteer, the horses, cause damage through the chariot. Either of the three scenarios, the chariot won't go forward because the charioteer is dead. If the charioteer is not dead and the horses are dead, it is of no use again. If the chariot itself is not there, it is all the more tough. That is why in Mahabharatam, Krishna was related to the Pandavas because, of course, his mother, his father and Pandava's mother, they were siblings. The other relationship was Krishna's own sister Subhadra was married to Arjuna. Thereby Arjuna is the son-in-law of the house. So when the necessity came, he was duty bound to help Arjuna. Krishna's son was married to Duryodhana's daughter. So Duryodhana's daughter was Lakshmana Akarantam, Strilinga Vachakam, who was married to Krishna and Jambavati's son Shambha. So that is why Shakuni tells, when one son-in-law takes help, your daughter is the daughter-in-law of Krishna, you go take help. So that is when you have the Drishyam of Mahabharatam, where Duryodhana comes and sits near Krishna's head and Arjuna sits near Krishna's feet, and then he asks, what do you want? He lays his big regiment, huge army called Narayani on one side, and he says, I will be on the other side, you can choose. And that is when Arjuna says, being the younger one, he is given the choice first. He says, I want Narayana. Duryodhana was so happy, oh, that has such a big army. Okay, I will take the army. And he goes back to his uncle and says, yes, deal done. The army is with us. Shakuni asked, where is Krishna? Krishna is on. Arjuna said, you fool. You have left Krishna on the other side, and what will you do with the army? Now you go and ask him again that there is a small appendix that I left. Put one star there. In the sale you get star. One like Vamana Avataram. And there you see up to 50%. That up to will be Vamana. 50 will be Trivikrama. But that up to will not be visible to our eyes. Now, he says, you go and ask Krishna that he should not deploy any weapon of his. He goes and says, Krishna, you should not be using any weapon. Krishna says, okay, deal, done. Now Shakuni thinks, wow, this is a good deal. Krishna cannot use any weapon because a person who doesn't have to use a weapon, what use will he be of in the battlefield? Why should he first of all come to a battlefield? See, suppose there is a yuddham. The only thing that I can remember is Kargil. The Kargil yuddham happening. I go there. I want to just see what is happening. No, they won't allow. I can't fight. I don't know how to fight. I don't have any weapons. Why will they allow me? So Arjuna said, Krishna, then how can you participate? Give your charioteer casual leave for 18 days. Let your driver go on leave. I will come in his position. A charioteer doesn't require weapons. I will do that. So to protect the horses and the Rathi, Krishna became the Sarathi. He sat in the middle to protect. So to protect the Ratham, the horses and the chariot is very, very important in a Yuddha Bhumi. So Rama was there on a chariot, the chariot broke. So Rama couldn't literally fight because Ravana is fighting at a certain height. So you need the similar height to fight him. Where will he keep his weapons? That is when Rama suddenly found that his height was, he was going up. When he saw down, Hanuman was lifting him. He said, you fight now. I will be your chariot. You start fighting. All the arrows that emanated from Ravana's bow didn't reach Rama. Rama thought, where is he? Bad archer. Where is it going? He looked left, right, top, nowhere. When he looked down, all the arrows were struck or aimed at Hanuman. Why? This man, this monkey has made us go to the IMF for the 6 billion crore package. He destroyed Lanka, right? He burnt Lanka. So Lanka had to go on begging bowl to the IMF in those days, give me money. So this monkey was the root cause. This Hanuman was the root cause. So Ravana wanted to teach Hanuman a lesson. Rama all this while was just a normal archer. He couldn't withstand what was meted to his most favorite of all, who was Hanuman. That is when he started fighting. Andal, a mystic poetess in the Tamil tradition, who is believed to have lived by the historians between the 5th and the 7th centuries AD, around 1500 years back, in a small hamlet today known for making Palkova, which was called Srivilliputturu. So, she was madly in love with Krishna. She would describe only Krishna's pastimes in her literature. But at one point in time, she says, I have fallen in love with Rama. People were wondering, Shurpanaka fell in love, you know what happened to Shurpanaka? Take care of your nose and ears. Why are you falling in love with Rama? What do you like in Rama? She says, I love his anger. Shinathinal tennilangai komanai chetra manathu kiniyanai padavum ni vaithiravai. The one who has kind of enamored me through his anger is Rama. There is one person called Dhanush in India. He has given one dialogue in Tamil. Paatha pudikadu. Paaka paaka pudikku. So, why do you love Rama? Because I love because of his anger. Will somebody tell he gets angry, I love him. Right? Why? Because a person is referred to as Drabe. So many of you will be reciting Shri Rudram. It is called Shatarudriyam in Yajurvedam. Drabe andhasaspade daridran neelalohita. What does Drabe mean? One commentator says, the one who knows when to get angry, how to get angry, and how to control that anger. 3 aspects should be there. When to get angry. You should not get angry for small things. Nobody will respect that anger. You should have a valid reason. And there should be a style in which you get anger. Style. And you should know how to control that anger. Some people say, if I get angry, I don't know what I will do. Then you are not fit to get angry. When you do not know what to do, then why do you get angry? So you should know how to control your anger. The one who does that is called drape. Drape andhasaspade daridran neelalohita, tells Vedam. So Rama is also called as Rudra in Sanskritam. That is why Rudram can be recited towards Paramashiva, Lord Shiva, towards Narasimha and Rama. Yadayishu Shivatama Shivam Bhabhuvate Dhanuhu. He carries the Kodandam, like how Shiva carries Pinaki. So Rama, generally a very seasoned, cultured, civilized person, got angry at that point in time. What was the reason? Because his favorite devotee was harmed. So there was a reason, and he had anger in a style. He could hit back through arrows. Can we do? He will aim that ball. It will not fall at that place. I am at least such kind of a person. We won't aim at the right place. So Rama got angry. So Andal tells, I love his anger. See, had we, just imagine, nobody should be in that position. Now some people get really offended on a lighter way. Imagine that we are in Rama's position. I will take my example. My wife is kidnapped. Now some people say, don't even say, just for name's sake. I won't have the ability to go in a coalition with monkeys, constructing a bridge. I will now speak like a philosopher. See, life is like this. We have to accept karma. Wherever she is, may she live happily. Rama was not that kind of a person. He thought he had to work towards and get her back. That showed his love. Right, so he worked towards it. And amongst the Nayaka and Nayika Bhavam, it is expected that by the Nayaka, that the Nayaka will get angry in certain occasions. Imagine, Sita and Rama are there, Sita is being abducted. And Rama is a very cultured individual. Namaskaram Ravana. Cultured individual, seasoned one. May you be blessed with Mahalakshmi's presence. No, he has to get angry at that point in time. So Anda, it says, I fell in love with Rama's anger. So Rama got angry at what treatment was meted to Hanuman by Ravana, and he started shooting arrows. Now his archery skills were so beautiful and so very indescribable that Ravana was defeated. And Ravana didn't have arrows at all. He checked on Amazon, no stock. Nothing available. That is when Rama said, maybe you're a bit tired. You've lost probably a lot of your weapons. Probably you may go take rest. Think for some time and then come tomorrow. Indra boy, this was the biggest insult given to Ravana. Nobody has done this to Ravana. Ravana went home. How dare he say that go home and come back? I will kill this Sita. That is when Malyavan stopped. See, you have been fighting all this battle for her. And if you end up killing her, then what is the use of fighting this battle? Wait for some time. Then he asks Indrajit to fight the battle. Indrajit, he does a Nikumbala Devi Yagam. Nikumbala is regarded as one of the devatas who's used for occult purposes. I have very little knowledge about this, but in Sri Vidya Upasana, there will be many devotees who may follow Shaktism. In Sri Vidya, Sri Chakram becomes one important geometrical figure because that is the construct of a city in which Lalita stays. It is called Sri Puram. So the first 20% of Lalita Sahasranamam is devoted to Sri Chakram. So you say in this place who stands in protection? Bhandasura vadhotyukta shakti sena samanvita sampatkari samarudha sindhura prajasevita ashvaruda adishtitaksha koti koti bhiravrita chakraraja ratharuda dandanada puraskrita jwalamalinika kshipta vanhi prakara madhyaga. All this describes the Shri Puram. So there are walls in every aspect in Shri Chakram. It is called Avaranam. Avaranam means fortress, wall. So there are 9. Hence Dikshita wrote Navavaranam. So Kamalam bhajare re manasakalpita Maya karyam tyajare sarvashadi paripuraka chakra swaminim sarvashadi paripuraka chakram. So every chakra has a name. There is one deity who rules that. I don't know much about Sri Vidya. Whatever little I know, I am telling you. So there is one deity who rules, Adhidevata, for that chakram. So as you go one step above the other, it's like a pyramid. Sri Chakram in a 3-dimension is like a pyramid. 2-dimension also you can draw. So the one who sits in the middle is Lalita Parameshwari. So below her there is one chakram. The watchwoman for that is called Matangi. Matangi Sri Raja Rajeshwari Mama Meenakshi Raja Matangi Madhuravani Varali Veni. She plays Veena. So she is called Rajamatangi. So every chakram will have an Adhidevata. The first chakram will have devatas who could be worshipped even for small reasons. One of the Devis is called Nikumbala. So this Indrajit performed Nikumbala Devi Yagam. That will give them extra power. That boost is the secret of my energy. So they can go and fight. Now Vibheeshana got one message. He had planted many spies here and there. Nikumbala Devi Yagam is happening. That evening, that night itself, he takes Lakshmana and says, Lakshmana, you have to fight Indrajit now, else he will get very powerful if this Yagam is completed. That is when Lakshmana has to fight Indrajit. Indrajit was a person who knew how to lure the person opposite him so that the person becomes weak while fighting. So to win over this, Lakshmana thinks the only way to end the battle is to release an astram thinking of Rama. So he releases one astram reciting this. Dharmatma satyasandhascha Ramo Dasharathir yadi paurushecha apratidvandvam tadainam jahi Ravanim. Ravani, the son of Ravana called Indrajit, may he be killed with this astra that I am releasing if I believe that my brother Rama is a Satyasandha, Dharmatma. If what I believe is true, let this arrow go and hit. See how much confidence he had on Rama. If somebody releases arrow vowing on us. I released this arrow thinking that Dushyanth is sincere, honest, humble, grounded. Nothing will happen. Because we are none of this, right? So that arrow went and hit Indrajit and Indrajit was killed. Next day, finally, Ravana had to come to the Yuddha Bhumi. He came on a chariot, and opposite today, Hanuman was not required because Indra sent his chariot previous. Now people ask, why didn't he send previous day? It would have gone for some workshop, I don't know. So today, முதல்ல இந்த கேள்வி வந்து கேட்பா ஏன் நேத்தே போல நேத்து என்ன தெரியும் இல்லையா என்ன சொல்லிட்டான் சார். So that chariot was sent by Indra today. Indra sent it along with his driver Mathali. Mathali came and said, Indra has dispatched, this is our plate number, all toll, we have filled that money, you don't have to worry, Rama, you sit. Now Andal was extremely happy about Rama sitting on the chariot of Indra and that going. So she tells in the Tamil Prabandham Nachiyar Tirumozhi, Mathali mun ter kolla. She tells Mathali drove the chariot in the front. This is redundant, right? Generally, how will you drive? He took the car forward. That is what the car is meant to do, right? That is what the book is meant for, right? So, Andal took the chariot forward. What does she imply? Andal will not use words unnecessarily. Why did she have to do this? The commentator says, Mathali was the charioteer to Indra till then. So when Indra fought a war, the charioteer knew only the reverse gear. He will never take the chariot forward. Indra will say, okay, I cannot fight this war, you take the chariot back, call some Raja from Ayodhya or Kashi. For the first time, Mathali was aware that the chariot can also go forward because he was a charioteer to Rama. That is why Andal tells Mathali mun ter kolla. The chariot went forward. So then Rama started fighting Ravana. Ravana became so fatigued in the middle that he swooned. The charioteer couldn't withstand this. He quietly took the chariot away from the battlefield. Ravana had not told this to the charioteer. He took away because he wanted to see, ultimately the charioteer, whatever be it, he has to protect his Rathi. So he took that away. At that point in time, even Rama looked a bit fatigued. So many days of war, no proper food there, even he would have gotten tired. At that point in time, Agastya arrives. Agastya arrives and says, Rama, you need to boost yourself. You have got vitamin D deficiency. So let me invoke Surya Deva. Your melanin will work well now. You will get better energy. And that is when Aditya Hridayam is taught. Tato yuddha parishrantam samare chintaya sthitam Ravanam chagrato drishtva yuddhaya samupasthitam. Bravid Ramam Agastyo Bhagavan Rishihi Rama Rama Mahabaho Shrunu Guhyam Sanātanam Yena Sarvan Narin Vatsa Samare Vijayishyasi Aditya Hridayam Punyam Sarva Shatru Vinashanam Jayavaham Jape Nityam Akshayam Paramam Shivam Sarva Mangala Mangalyam Sarva Papa Pranashanam Chinta Shoka Prashamanam Ayurvardhanam Uttamam Rashmimantam Samudyantam Deva Sura Namaskritam Pujayasva Vivaswantam Bhaskaram Bhuvaneshwaram Sarva Devatmako Hyesha Tejasvi Rashmi Bhavanaha Yesha Deva Suraganan Lokan Patiga Bhastibhi Yesha Brahma Cha Vishnuscha Shivaskanda Prajapatihi Mahendro Dhanadakkalo Yamasomo Hyapampatihi Pitaro Vasavassadhya Hyashvinau Maruto Manuhu Vayurvanhi Praja Pranaha Ritukarta Prabhakaraha Aditya Savita Surya Khagav Pushaga Bhastiman Suvarna Sadrisho Bhanur Hiranyareta Divakaraha Haridashva Sahasrarchir Sapta Saptir Marichiman Timiron Mathana Shambhustvashta Martanda Amshuman Hiranyagarbha Shishiraha Tapano Bhaskaro Ravihi Agni Garbho Aditev Putraha Shanka Shishira Nashanaha Vyomanathastamo Bhedi Rigyajusama Paragaha Ghana Vrishtir Apam Mitro Vindhyavithi Plavangamaha Atapi Mandali Mrutyuh Pingala Sarvatapanaha Kavir Vishwo Mahateja Rakta Sarva Bhavodbhavaha Nakshatra Grahataranam Adhipo Vishwa Bhavanaha Tejasamapi Tejasvi Dvadashatman Namostute Namah Purvaya Giraye Paschimaya Namaha Jyotirgananam Pataye Dinadhipataye Namaha Jayaya Jaya Bhadraya Haryashvaya Namo Namaha Namo Namah Sahasram Shor Adityaya Namo Namaha Namah Ugraya Viraya Sharangaya Namo Namaha Namah Padma Prabodhaya Martandaya Namo Namaha ब्रह्मेशानाच्युतेशाय सूर्यायादित्यवर्चसे भास्वते सर्वभक्षाय रौद्राय वपुषे नमः तमोघ्नाय हिमघ्नाय शत्रुघ्नायामितात्मने कृतघ्नघ्नाय देवाय ज्योतिषां पतये नमः तप्तचामीकराभाय वह्नये विश्वकर्मणे नमस्तमोभिनिघ्नाय रुचये लोकसाक्षिणे नाशयत्येष वैभूतं तदेव सृजति प्रभुः पायत्येष तपत्येष वर्षत्येष गभस्तिभिः येष सुप्तेषु जागर्ति भूतेषु परिनिष्ठितः येष एवाग्निहोत्रं च फलं चैवाग्निहोत्रिणां वेदाश्च क्रतवश्चैव क्रतूनां फलमेव च यानि कृत्यानि लोकेषु सर्व एष रविप्रभुः येन मापत्सु कृच्छ्रेषु कान्तारेषु भयेषु च कीर्तयन् पुरुषः कश्चिन्नावसीदति राघव पूजयस्वैनमेकाग्रो देवदेवं जगत्पतिम् एतत् त्रिगुणितं जप्त्वा युद्धेषु विजयिष्यसि अस्मिन् क्षणे महाबाहो रावणं त्वं वधिष्यसि एवमुक्त्वा तथागस्त्यो जगाम च यथागतम् एतत् श्रुत्वा महातेजा नष्टशोको अभवत्तदा धारयामास सुप्रीतः राघवः प्रयतात्मवान् आदित्यं प्रेक्ष्य जप्त्वा तु परं हर्षमवाप्तवान् त्रिराचम्य शुचिर्भूत्वा धनुरादाय वीर्यवान् रावणं प्रेक्ष्य हृष्टात्मा युद्धाय समुपागमत् सर्वयत्नेन महता वधे तस्य धृतोऽभवत् अथ रविरवदति निरीक्ष्य रामं मुदितमना परमं परिहृष्यमाणः निशिचरपदि संशयं विदित्वा सुरगणमध्यगतो वचस्त्वरेति. In the YouTube, I have detailed Aditya Hridayam for over 12 hours, explaining every nama, because it is a like Ashtottara Shatanamavali. You've got every nama. What commentators like Govindaraja, Shivasahaya, Tilaka, Maheshwara Tirtha have to say, I have given. Those lectures are in Tamil. You can understand simple Tamil. Try understanding it if you are not a Tamil speaking person. It has been explained in detail. Well, Aditya Hridayam is very popular. It is one of the most sought after hymns for Lord Surya. It is found in Ramayanam. Similarly, in Sri Mahabharatam, in Vanaparva, the moment Pandavas get into the forest, the first thing that is being advised to them is invoke the blessings of Surya through Ashtottara Shatanamavali, which is inside Mahabharatam. That is when Surya comes and blesses them with Akshaya Patram. Always, if you tell, it's like that Instapot. People say, when Instapot came, I don't have to go to the second dish at all. Whatever I want, it gets done. Like Instapot. Okay. So, this is there in Mahabharatam. Of course, there is a beautiful poem on Surya around the 7th century in India. It is called Surya Shatakam by Mayura Kavi. It is generally recited if you have got eye problems. Now see, Sanātana Dharma, when it says if you recite this, your eyes will get better, it doesn't mean you should not undergo cataract, not undergo any of the operations. Sanātana Dharma believes that science is very important to understanding the creation of God. So it says believe in both. For example, if the doctor gives you a medicine, invoke the name of Narayana and take that medicine. It doesn't say just keep telling the name of the Lord, don't take the vaccine, don't take the medicine. No, you have to take this, because that medicine is also a part of this creation. The Western world sees the creator as separate from the creation. Sanātana Dharma believes the creator is the creation. The creator is in the creation. So they are not two different mutually exclusive elements. There is an intersection and they are also subsets to each other. So the entire world has Paramatma in it, thereby making Paramatma a subset to the Jivatma. That Paramatma has the entire creation including Jivatma in it, thereby making the Jivatma a subset to Paramatma. So they are, if you draw Venn diagrams, you can explain that well. Now, the beauty about Aditya Hridayam, I'll tell you, is very popular, extremely beautiful, quite memorized by many astikas and recited every day by many astikas. the commentary to Ramayanam. See, you will know that the work is genuine. The verses are in the right order, accepted and found in the manuscripts till then through revered commentaries. Commentary is not happening now. Ramayana is old and you have commentaries also, many in number, which are revered, respected and quite well known. One such commentary, which is a detailed commentary on Ramayana verses, is called Bhushanam. It is also called Govindarajiyam by a commentator called Govindaraja, one of the best commentators to Ramayana. While commenting upon this portion in Yuddha Kandam called as Aditya Hridayam, he comments so beautifully on every name of Surya, and his final comments. He says, in Sanskritam, in the manuscripts that I have received, he's talking about 800-900 years back. In the manuscripts that I have received till date, Aditya Hridayam is not found in the Valmiki Ramayanam manuscripts, he says. So in the ancient manuscripts, it is not found, he says. Then comes the question, why are you commenting? He gives a reason. But this Aditya Hridayam is so popular among the Bhaktas, he tells in the commentary of Sanskritam, centuries before, that there is nothing wrong if I comment upon it, but the truth is it is not found in the manuscripts. So either you can assume that Aditya Hridayam is antargatam to Ramayanam and recite, even if you think it may not fall under the original work, it is still a beautiful and revered work for Surya, because in Sanātana Dharma you have three tools of deducing and understanding Paramatma. The first is Pratyaksham, second is Anumanam, third is Shabdam. So how do you understand an object? Through your five senses. If someone says, has your mother come? You will check outside and check if she's come in life. So you check through your eyes. Eyes, if I see, I will believe. That is one. Certain things you don't have to show also. Suppose somebody is baking a cake. Are you baking something? So your nose can be used. Certain things you will be able to know what is the taste only after tasting it. Right? Whether it's a lychee or some other fruit, I put it into my mouth. Oh, yeah. It isn't ice apple. It is lychee. They look same, jelly in nature. I will know only through my tongue. Certain things I have to feel. So your five senses have to come in contact with that object. So it is pratyaksham. Second is anumanam. I infer. So I see smoke somewhere coming while I am driving on the highway. I wouldn't say, let me go and check there. The moment I see the smoke, I will say, I won't say there is smoke. Oh, there is fire. I am not seeing the fire. I am inferring that there is fire looking upon the effect called smoke. That is called anumanam. Suppose I say that there is a creation, then there must be a creator. That is I am inferring. The third is Shabdam, verbal testimony from our scriptures, which says that Shastram tells there is Lord, there is Paramatma, there is Narayana. This is Shabda Pramanam. Now Shastram finally tells, if you want to see Paramatma in all his gunams through your eyes, of course, you can bring them to Shiva Vishnu temple, Ganesha temple, whatever temple. See, look at the Lord. So to a person who goes very logically, he'll say, this is a stone. You're calling this as the Lord. So how do you deduce? That is when Shastram tells, if you say that Paramatma is not deterred by any effect, he is invincible, he has nobody at par with him, some of these qualities you can see day in and day out in the sun. Surya rises and sets, of course, based on which latitude and longitude you are, you may have longer days, longer nights and all of it, but you see the sun. You can feel the sun because the rays that come from him can be felt. You can also see him through your eyes. So be it verbal testimony, be it anumanam, be it pratyaksham, you see Surya. So Surya becomes a very, very important part of the worship of any civilization. Sanātana Dharma, Indus Valley, Vedic civilization believes in Surya till date. The Western some of the river valley civilizations of the other countries like Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Persian, also believed in Surya. Egyptian civilization, they all believed in Surya. Because the landscape of those civilizations have changed, so has the Surya worship come down. See, in Egyptian civilization, that day we were talking, the sun god is called Ra. In Greek civilization, what is he called? Surya Bhagavan rakare. So there is sun god there as well. So in Sanātana Dharma, it is still continuing. So this sun worship is very important because day in and day out, thrice a day, you see that Paramatma within the sun and do Arghyam. When you have to do Sandhya Vandanam, you say Dhyaya Sada Savitra Mandala Madhyavarti, the one who is within the sun. So sun becomes the substratum for whom you assume is the Lord. Now, after this, Ravana came, Rama released Astram, Brahmastram. Now, while this is being released and Ravana dies, there is one version. It seems Vibheeshana said, Rama, don't hit anywhere else. There is one small pot, and that pot has Amritam. It is close to the appendix below in that abdomen region. Hit there. You've heard of this version? All this is not there in Ramayana. There is one pot. That pot is near appendix. Nothing. He hit Ravana and he died. That's all. So, as soon as now Ravana, there are nuances here. When Ravana fell, he did not fall on the ground with his face down. He fell like this because he did not want to do a namaskaram even while the dying posture. He fell like this, it seems. The moment Ravana died, Rama said, Vibheeshana, as the younger brother to Ravana, you have to perform the final rites. Vibheeshana said, I will not perform to this man in me too. I will not. He has misbehaved with women, I will not do it. Rama said, Maranantani Vairani, I have enmity with Ravana on one issue, that he has abducted my wife. I will not make any judgments against him otherwise. I have nothing against him but this issue. And especially after a person is dead, you should not talk bad about that person. Maranantani Vairani. If you refuse to perform the final rites for your brother Vibheeshana, I have no objections, I will perform. Throughout my journey in the forest, I have been doing only Dharma Samskaram for Jatayu, for one Rishi after the other. I don't mind him being the 11th or the 12th person. That is when Vibheeshana said, no, if Rama, if you are telling me something, that has to be valued. That is when Rama tells, go get the Agni to light his funeral pyre from the Agnihotram that Ravana has performed. So that fire is brought and he's burnt, the final rites are done. Then comes Mandodari to that particular Ranabhumi. She wants to curse Rama. Of course, what will she curse? Oh, you have killed an antisocial element such as this. How dare you do that? If he had lived, he would have troubled more people. You have done a great disservice. She cannot cry. But the moment she sees Rama, she starts praising him. Vyaktamesha Mahayogi Paramatma Sanatanaha Anadi Madhyanidanaha Mahatav Paramo Mahantamasaf Paramo Dhata Shanka Chakra Gadadharaha Shri Vatsavakshaha Nitya Shrihi Ajayaha Shashvato Dhruvaha. As soon as she praises, the final rites of Ravana is done. Even today, the language which is largely spoken in Sri Lanka, which is called Singalam or Sinhalese, there are many places which in their local language is associated with Ramayanam. So, there is a place called Hambantota. There is a place called Kalyanam. There is a place called Nuvara Eliya. There is a place on the way to Velimada called Sita Eliya. There is a place where Agni Pariksha was performed called Divurum Pola. Divurum Pola means the place where the oath was taken. So even today, if people have to resolve a lot of the personal tiffs, they come to that place and do Satya Pramana in Lanka. So all these places are found. Now Rama tells Hanuman, you go and inform Sita. She must be worried. Who has won over the war? Instead, the radio signals were not that great. She may not know what is happening. You go and inform that I have won over Ravana. Hanuman finds it exciting news. He goes running, Vadi Shobanam, Irindra Shobanam, Mangala Shobanam, things well have happened. Rama has won over Ravana. That is when Sita, who was worried till then what will happen, because she knew from the smoke emanating that there is some big yuddham happening, and Trijata was there to console and convince her. But here, the moment Hanuman informed, she said, see, that day while I was on the verge of committing suicide, it was you who came and said, do not worry, Rama is coming. Now while I am still troubled who has won over the yuddham, it is again you who's coming as Mukhya Prana Devata. In Madhva Sampradayam is called Mukhya Prana Devata. You are coming and giving back life to me. I don't know what I can give you in return, Hanuman. Can I keep my head at your feet? Shall I keep my head at your feet, Hanuman, for all the services you have rendered? Hanuman, who spoke Tamil, said, others can fall at the feet of Amma. Amma will never fall at the feet of others. Priyamakhyami te devi bhuvyaschatvam sabhajaye tava prabhava dharmajne mahan ramena sanyuge labdhoyam vijayasite swastha bhavatadajvara ravanascha hatashatru lanka chaiva vashikrita. Sita tells, Nahi pashyami sadrisham chintayanti plavangama akyanakasya bhavato datum pratyabhinandanam. Pratyabhinandanam, I do namaskaram to you in reciprocation. Then after she was elated upon hearing the news, Rama calls Vibheeshana. He tells him, murmurs something in his ears and says, Vibheeshana is a bit confused hearing this message. Should I go really? Go, tell this you do. It was a huge arena, an amphitheater like set up, so there were monkeys which they were already tired after the yuddham. Then the Rakshasas also had survived. So they were all very tired, but they wanted to have a glimpse of Sita because they were fighting all these days for a lady whom they've never seen. What is she? We have been fighting in for her name, let her come. So Vibheeshana goes and informs to Sita, Mata, I have some message, please take it in the right spirit. Rama says you have to take bath first. Dress up well in silk clothes. Put all the jewelry and then come in a palanquin to the arena. Sita was confused. See, she had not taken bath. Avyakta rekham iva chandra rekham. See, she sat in the same place where she had come. Only thing she would do, it doesn't mean she never got up from that place. All these days, the only thing that she would do is, she would not eat anything. She would do Sandhya Vandhanam, tells Sundarakandam. She goes to the waters, a small rivulet close by, and used to do Sandhya Vandhanam in the evening. So Sita used to do. This is what Sundarakandam tells, nothing else. Now she was dirty, she looked like there was a thin layer of dust enveloping her because she had not taken bath. And she thought, see, after having undergone so much with a torn pallu, with dirt all over me, Rama, the hero, may want to see me this way, right? In what state I am been waiting for him. That's how we see most movies. The heroine will be so tired, the hero will come. There will be one background music. You all must have attended Mustafa yesterday. There will be one BGM behind. Then this heroine will come slowly. The hero will come. They will hug each other. Vanakkam, Shubham, thank you. We will conclude. So she thought Rama would be, and then he's asking her, take bath, come well dressed. Then people will think that she was like this, in this state in Lanka. But Vibheeshana says, see, I don't know, you may make your own judgments, but this is what Rama said. Okay, if he has said, okay, she dressed up well, she put all the jewelry, she sat on the palanquin came to that particular place, and then all the monkeys and the Rakshasas were waiting. How she will be? How will she be? Will she be a personification of immaculate beauty, spotless beauty? This is what they were thinking. That is when Rama said, when all of you have walked all over through the bridge, have been fighting relentlessly with so much of energy in you, does this lady deserve a palanquin? Keep the palanquin down. Vibheeshana turned towards Rama. He only said, bring her in palanquin. What is this man? Why is he like this? I thought he was Raghu Rama, he has become Raghu Varan. Huh? Why is he asking him to keep the palanquin down? Then Sita gets out. As she walks, you put on some weight. Maybe Lanka cuisine is very good. You seem to be very happy in Lanka. See, as your wedded husband, it was my duty to come and fight the war. I know you are very capable, but I had to do my duty because I promised your father that I will take good care of you. She is my prized possession. I regard her as my very life. I did this, so I protected you. I fought the war. My duty is done. You may, if you wish to marry Angada, Sugreeva, whomever you wish, all these are shlokas. You may marry. I am leaving this place. Sir, I should have not come the 8 days. First 8 days Ramayana. Is this the way Rama behaves? Immediately somebody will take an excerpt of this. That is why we say anti-Rama agitation. So, sabar rakhiye. Thoda suniye thoda. So Rama tells this. Remember day 3, Sita, day 4. Sita said at the age of 18, while Rama said that I am going to the forest, and Sita said, I wish to come with you, and Rama said, no, you shouldn't come to the forest. She said, Kim tvam anyata vaidehaha pita me mithiladipah ramajamataram prapya striyam purusha vigraham. If you are refusing to take me to the forest, I just can conclude that my father did not get me married to a man of great valor. You must also be a woman like me, disguised as a man. This is what she said. Striyam Purusha Vigraham. Rama then said, come to the forest. Right? So Sita is no normal individual who needs us to become advocates for her. We'll all become advocates. How dare Rama do this to Sita? Sita can fight her own case. She has the courage to win over Rama in a war too, be it a verbal war or even a war of archery. She can win over. But she stood calm. Why? Because what Rama was throwing as an allegation at her, close to what maligning her character, is what she did to Lakshmana. In Aranyakandam, when Rama's voice of cry, the war cry was heard, help was heard, Sita thought it must be Rama and she said, Lakshmana, you go. Lakshmana said, don't worry, my brothers Ajata, Shatru, Asahaya, Shura, Anapayasa, said, don't worry. That time she said, I know you've been waiting for all these 13 years to have a relationship with me. She said this to a person who had relentlessly served her as a very son. No son would even serve like this. And that man, in one instant, she hurt him, she maligned him, she accused him. She may have felt bad for it later, no doubt. But see, you cannot utter whatever you like and then say, no, yesterday I felt very bad, I shouldn't have done that. You should have thought of all this before speaking. What is doing a prayashittam, power manipulator? So, Rama wanted to give her a sense of how it will feel when you are thrown the same accusation for no reason, while you threw the same accusation at Lakshmana for no reason. Now you may wonder, sir, Rama could have done that somewhere in the private room. Right? Taking Sita, you should have not done this. Okay, you should not do this. From next time onwards, no. And then he could have brought her. Correct? Rama could have done that. Then, it may seem like a bitter medicine to us. But the human buddhi, the manushya buddhi is like this. Whether we like it or not, how much ever Ramayanam I say, how much ever you listen, how much ever Bhagavatam I say and you listen, how much ever Bhagavad Gita I internalize and you internalize, at the end of the day we will become humans. Right? So if our children do something, it is okay. Somebody else does this, that is a fault. Many houses traditionally, I don't know, it's not happening, should not be happening now. If the daughter does, it is still okay, the daughter-in-law shouldn't be doing this. Because she isn't mine. So this my and my possession always takes prominence over something which is not mine, which is a wrong treatment. If it is a mistake, whoever commits, it is a mistake. Even if the person is a vidwan, if he commits, it is a mistake. Even a person who is a peasant who commits it, it is a mistake. Just because you are born into a certain caste, certain religion, certain creed, certain gender, it doesn't mean that this mistake is okay if that person does it. Correct. So you cannot do gradation in mistakes. Mistake, case scenario 1. If this person does it, this mistake is okay. I don't know if you know this. There's a saying in Malayalam. കേശവൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ കേവലം ദോഷമില്ല കേസ് ഡിസ്മിസ് അറിയോ? എന്താണ് ഇത് ഉദാഹരണം? ഞാൻ പറയാം. So there was a king. Okay. This king had a beautiful Nandavanam. And in that Nandavanam he used to cultivate and make beautiful roses. But there was a board kept there. If you pluck the roses, you will be punished. I don't know, here in Bharatadesham, poor thing, the house owner will be cultivating plants. But there will be many astikas who will go for a morning 5 a.m. walk along with a cover. Tumani maadatu sutrum vilak pagadatu puve. My bhakti will start with the flowers that are fruits of the next person. Where does this idea come from? See, that person is not doing nothing wrong. They all got it from Bhagavatam. Ennadan Devikku innappu iyadal tannadan kaanave. What Satyabhama desired was a tree to compete with Rukmini, but all the flowers will fall only in Rukmini's courtyard. So this king had this beautiful roses, Nandavanam. So if somebody would pluck the flowers for no lame reason, then that person will be punished. This was the general law. People knew of it. One day the roses went missing. So immediately the king gave a judgment. Whoever has done it, this heinous crime of plucking these roses shall be guillotined. Done. Iti hastaksharam, the Raja signed. Then the minister came and said, sir, one thing. The person who has plucked is your son, Keshavan. Keshavan aanu idu cheyyunnathu. Then how could this punishment go to his son? It is his dear son, his DNA, ATGC, right? That is your DNA thing. How could he give it A positive, A positive? Same skin, same mandabuddhi. So how could he punish his son? So he gave a postscript note behind that judgment. Keshavan undengil. If the mistake has been committed by Keshava, kevalam doshamilla, case dismiss. So if it is my son Keshava who has committed the mistake, it is no crime. Keshavan illengil, then kill him. If it is not Keshava. So Rama did not want to have a democracy this way, wherein the leader himself does mistakes, right? But nobody should question that leader. So that is why Rama thought, only in the public if I reprimand that person, even if it is my beloved wife, so what? People will know that people in positions should not misuse that position. If he had not punished, then it will be like, see, if anybody else had accused Lakshmana, Rama would have punished. It's his wife, man. Pondatiya pita. In Tamil Nadu, it is called Chidambara Rahasyam. You protect your son and the son protects the father. I am talking generally about the Chidambara Rahasyam. So, Rama wanted to throw the accusation. Now Sita, see, I have told you time and again that Sita was a very, very bold woman. She could have said, to hell with you and your judgment. I am taking the flight to Nepal. I am going to, it's her father's land, right? Bye. She could have gone. She could have said Tata, because Tata has taken the airline. So, and gone there. But why didn't she do it? Because she knew she was at fault. The moment she was waiting, she knew her husband well. She knew this day would come. So she immediately wanted to prove that she had sought remorse for the mistake that she had done. For accusing a Bhagavata, she had sought remorse, prayashchitta. So in those days, one of the easiest ways to accept your mistake and prove that you have sought remorse for your mistake was to prove in one of the Panchabhutas. Either you cross water or you jump into fire. When I say fire, not blazing fire. It will just be like Some of the places they heat up stones and then you'll have to walk on it to just say, see, I have undergone this. You may say it's not required. In those days it was. So Sita needed fire. She didn't have a matchbox. Whom will she go and ask? She cannot ask the judge, Rama himself. See, the judge tells that $5,000 is the penalty. I don't have. The judge, sir, you give me $5,000 now. Every month I will return to you 250. Judge, so she couldn't ask fire from Rama. The only person whom she knew well other than Rama was Lakshmana. So she went and asked Lakshmana. Lakshmana light this fire. So Rama led her to Lakshmana, the one to whom she had performed the mistake. Lakshmana couldn't stand this. Whatever said and done, she is my mother. Can she come and plead? So he looked at Rama. Rama, what? He didn't say. He just looked at Rama. What is this? What are you doing? Kamban, the Tamil poet, beautifully makes a mention. Avan kannil koorinan. Rama told Lakshmana, you do. So it was lit. Sita went into. Then the monkeys thought, for this, why did we have to fight? We are about to roll, சண்டை போட வச்சுட்டு இந்த மாதிரி நெருப்புல போ தண்ணிக்குள்ள குதிஞ்சு வரதுக்கு அங்கேருந்தே பண்ணிருக்கலாம். We have been fighting all these days. So then one another person with lot of bruises all over his body holds Sita and comes out. Rama says, who are you? You looked very damaged. He says, I am Agni Devatam. Generally, I burn people. Her purity, her thought process, her intellect, her way of looking at the world has burnt me. She has touched the pinnacle of what purity is. When he says purity, purity of thoughts. Please give me Bernal. I don't know. So, give me that. Then, now what should have happened if Sita had really thought what Rama had done was bad? He shouldn't have done this. She could have said, okay Rama, I have done this Agni Pariksha. Namaskaram. Hope you, let's stay in touch. For a few days, I need to think it over. Then she could have gone. She was a bold woman. But then they started speaking normally and naturally. Oh, what did you eat? They started speaking. How did you spend your time? I was always thinking of you. So this incident was enacted to the entire crowd to say, do not judge or doubt people without proof. See, here generally you're all people who serve yourselves. There is no concept of a person who helps you out. There's no concept of a maid. She may come once in 15 days and does. You're all people who are self-sufficient. You manage on your own, which is super good. But there is a concept of having a maid who helps you, he or she, in many of the Southeast Asian countries. But it is a sad thing when something goes missing in the house. Even without knowing where it has gone, who might have taken, the first thing that comes to the mind of a person is he or she might have taken. That is why Yudhishthira tells in Yaksha Prashnam, who should be respected? Bhrityaha, people who serve you should be respected, never doubt them. Unless and until you have solid proof. Sita did that to Lakshmana. So this is an exemplification of how well behaved we should be to people around us. Now they sat in the Pushpaka Vimanam. Now comes another doubt. Sir, you are talking about Pushpaka Vimanam. Were there flights before Wright brothers? This doesn't seem right. Before Wright. Huh? There are 2-3 ways of looking at it. Our understanding of history goes through one of the powerful tools called archaeology. As I excavate, as I decipher inscriptions, and as I understand a lot of other things related to history, I will be able to understand how people lived during those times. Correct? But archaeology and its understanding is a continuous process. No historian, well-read historian will say, this is how they lived, I conclude. He will say, as per the artifacts and sources received by me and or by us till date, this is how they lived. There could be more evidences coming. For that, excavation should happen. But how will excavation happen? Outer ring road in Bangalore is full of buildings. Where will you excavate? The only people who excavate in Bharatadesham are the telephone people. So they will keep excavating the same road. Otherwise, where will you go and excavate? It is such a densely populated country. So every country, every region, every continent needs to excavate to understand its past. So maybe till what we have received, we may not have evidences of how Vaimanika Shastra was used. Maybe that is one probability. Second, see, to us, Ramayanam and Mahabharatam, the primary itihasas, come in the form of poetry. Correct? In poetry, you always exaggerate than what is really seen. We are also poets, remember. We are poets. Suppose I sit and drive the car here. There is a speed limit at which it can go. Certain places it may have to go at 80 miles or 120 miles. My mother, who comes and sits next to me, she hasn't gone in such high speed in cars. She goes home and people ask, how did your son drive? Drive? He flew. She's a poet. She's exaggerating, right? So I didn't literally fly. I drove, but I drove at a speed which was more or higher than what the normal speed is. So it seems to her as if I'm flying. So poetry can come to us as with a scope of exaggeration. So even if it was a ratham, a chariot, that could become a boat. See, you have seen so many buses that can ply on roads and then become boats. It could have been one of those vehicles that could have plied them to Lanka. Because it used to go at a high speed, it could have been termed as a flight. Correct. So there are many options. Now he used Pushpaka Vimana, took all the monkeys and came back to Bharatadesham. On their way back, Rama tells, he won't give some free time to Hanuman. That is Rama's job. He will call Hanuman. 14 years is over. Last 1 hour, Bharata will fall into the fire. Go and protect him. So Hanuman is a Mukhya Prana Devata. Whoever is committing suicide, last minute Hanuman will come and protect. Now, Hanuman goes flying to Ayodhya near Nandigramam. He has lit the fire. He wants to fall because 14 years, he said, 14 years later, 1 minute I will not wait Rama. So while he was just about to fight, don't stop. Rama is reaching, few more minutes, the GPS says. So then Bharata embraces Hanuman. You have given me such great information. He felt the same feeling as how he embraced Rama in Sundarakanda. Then Rama arrives. Then Bharata tells, let Paduka Devi do the next coronation. Remember, if there is a king and he wants to coronate his son, the next heir apparent, he will do the Pattabhishekam. Now Dasharatha, after Dasharatha, Rama was to become. Then it went to Bharata. Bharata said he will not become. Then Rama gave his Paduka. So Paduka Devi became the next queen. Now Paduka Devi was brought on the royal elephant called Shrutanjaya with the Chatram and Chamaram. And then they reached Ayodhya and she said through her, she won't speak directly, she executes through Bharata saying that the next king will be Rama. First Bharata said, first I have to bring one barber. Rama had huge dadi, beard, or jata. First they all had to be trimmed and he had to be groomed well to become the next king. Shmashruvardhanaha came. They gave a ceremonial bath to Rama and Sita. They wore beautiful white silks with borders, beautiful borders. You may be wondering, sir, white is allowed in Sanātana Dharma? Yes. Every color is allowed in combination. See, no color in Sanātana Dharma is inauspicious. One color may be better auspicious. There is nothing called an inauspicious color. This may be auspicious, more auspicious. That's all. So, in that white with that border, the next question, sir, was silk allowed? Yes, silk was allowed. Now you may say, no sir, that is himsa to cocoons. You cannot deploy logic everywhere. If you don't want to use, don't use. Simple. Now, Was silk used? Yes, Kalidasa says Chinam Shukaihi. Even China silk was used in Kumara Sambhava. Chinam Shukaihi, he says. So, as she held a lotus in her hand, and then they walked the huge arena to climb the golden laden 18 stairs to sit on the Simhasanam. All the monkeys, for Kishkinda people from Karnataka, they had gone to Uttar Pradesh. Then Rakshasas, for them it was a big thing. They had come from Lanka to Uttar Pradesh. Then different rishis had come. Then Vasishtha was very, very tense. See, for him, he was a great acharya. Vasishtha, we refer to Vyasa as Vyasam, Vasishtha Naptaram. Vasishtha was a teacher of Rama. You teach Rama, such a great teacher. Besides that, his side job, profession was to be a Purohita. So if devotees come and ask, fix a good muhurta for our marriage, Sashtibda Purti, Pattabhishekam, Bhimarata Shanti, he will do. Similarly, Dasharatha had given him a task, please fix a date for Rama's Pattabhishekam. He fixed. He was a well-known name. Then if you type in Google, first name Vasishtha will appear. Search engine optimization will throw his name first. Vasishtha, 1,12,000 results found. So you will get Vasishtha first. But Vasishtha had the big setback of his life when the date he had fixed couldn't happen because Rama wanted to go in exile. From then onwards, people started speaking. If you go to Vasishtha, that date, somehow he is not auspicious. His business came severely down. Arundhati, she had no time counting the receipts. This day, so they started going, Vasishtha, so Vasishtha had acquired a bad name. He thought, now I have to fix the date again for Rama. What if there is another Manthara now coming from some other Uzbekistan or Kyrgyzstan? So he said, people with hunch are prohibited outside. Vasishtha was ready. He told Sugreeva, please fetch some waters from Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, some of the oceans, South China Sea, however problematic it is, you go and come. So they took all the kalasham and they had to go. Vasishtha thought it will take a week's time. By the time he finished this instruction and turned, he had brought super monkey. So they took all the kalasham and all the rishis had gathered, Markandeya, Maudgalya, Kashyapa and so on. That is when the recitation of Vedas had begun. Rama was holding the hand of Sita. Remember, you see some of the Chalachitrams, the Raja will be seated in an asanam. 2 steps down, the queen will be seated. That is not how Sanātana Dharma views. Even in a yagam, the patni has to sit alongside the husband. Now what we do generally, we'll put 2 wooden planks, 1 plank for the man, 1 plank for the woman. No. You have to put 2 separate planks and put a chapa over it, making it one asanam. They cannot sit in 2, they are one. The couple, it's called Vyasajya Vritti in Nyaya Shastram. You cannot separate them. Even when you give an invitation to the couple, you will not give Maithili Mami Kidu, Mama Kidu. Yeah. You may say Maithili Atukara. Mama may not even have a name. So, avarkitta sollala ana mami kitta solliyacha avarkitta. So he is Shriyapati, right? So it is important you put one asanam. So they started walking one step each at a time, and then they reached the Simhasanam. Ramam Ratnamaye Pithe Sasitam Sanyaveshayat Vasishtho Vamadevascha Jabali Rathakashyapaha Katyayanaha Suyajnyascha Gautamo Vijayasthata Abhyasinchan Naravyagra Prasannena Sugandhina. The beautiful crown that had adorned some of the greatest kings of Surya Vamsham, from Ikshvaku, Mandhata, Aja, Dilipa, Asamanja, Samshuman, Bhagirata, Mandhata and so on. That kiritam came which had adorned the auspicious Paduka Devi, And Vasishtha walked atop the 18 golden laden stairs and then placed it on the head of Rama. Ramam Ratnamaye Pithe Sasitam Sanyaveshayat Vasishtho Vamadevascha Jabalir Athakashyapaha Katyayanaha Suyajnaha Gautamaha Vijayaha Tata Abhyashinchan Naravyagra Prasannena Sugandhina. Parashara tells Maitreya and Vishnu Puranam, even if you were to give me 1,000 years, I will not be able to describe how beautiful that sight was. If Parashara was not able to describe, how am I a primitive mortal in front of him? So, Kamban tells, Ariyanai Anumantanga Angadan Udaival Yenda Bharadan Pen Kudaikavika Machivarum Kavarivisha Viraisari Kudali Vonga Venai Nallur Shadayantangal Marabulor Kodukka Vangi Vasishtane Punaindan Mauli. In fact, one of the greatest Vageyakaras of the South Indian classical Carnatic music, one amongst the trinity, is Tyaga Brahman called Tyagaraja, who was born in Mooladhara Kshetram Thiruvarur and later flourished and nurtured in the Panchanadi Kshetram called Thiruvayyara. He was a poor person who couldn't manage conducting large festivals, being a bonanza or with some pomp and show and grandeur. All that he could do was compose kritis. He wanted to do a grand event for Rama Pattabhishekam, but he couldn't. So he had a small photo given by one of his Sishyas of Rama, and he wanted to do a Pattabhishekam. Incidentally, that day one of his Sishyas came and said, to our city of Thiruvayyar, a great Vageyakara called Muthuswami Dikshitar along with his Veena has come to our city. Can we invite him? Please do. I will go personally and invite him. And he invited Muthuswami Dikshitar. Muthuswami Dikshitar, one of the other great composers, he said, I am honored to see you, Tyagaraja. Tyagaraja said, I am tired of singing. Can you compose a kriti for my Rama? Mama Pattabhirama Jaya Maruti Sannutanama Padako Dandarama Ghanashyamana Vigrahajanayana Sampurnakama Raghurama Kalyana Rama Rama Mama Pattabhirama Chhatra Chamara Karadhrita Bharata Lakshmana Shatrughna Vibheeshana Sugreeva Pramukhadi Sevita Atri Vasishtyaadyanugraha Patra Dasharatha Putra Manirangavalyalankruta Navaratna Mantape Vichitra Manimaya Simhasane Sitaya Saha Sucharitra Parama Pavitra Guru Guha Mitra Pankaja Mitra Vamsha Sudha Buddhi Chandra Midini Pala Ramachandra Mava Pattabhirama. At that point in time, there were different gifts given. So every person brought a gift. Nowadays we tell don't give gift, right? There were days when parents were not that well off, where they will depend on the small gifts that come so that they could conduct marriages. Now gifts become a big liability. In my marriage, I received 25 wall clocks. I should have a shop. And at times, it may so happen, if you're that destined, it will be the same that you had gifted. And we may also write a lipi over the gift. If somebody gives us, one function is coming. We will push it there. Now, so Rama was given different gifts. Indra, who had performed Sharanagathy along with the Devas to get the demoniac forces annihilated, every other person gave a gift. Personally. But Indra did not come for Rama Pattabhishekam. Read Ramayana carefully. Indra alone was absent in Rama Pattabhishekam. He just sent some FedEx gift. So Varuna or Vayu carried. Avarala varamudila romba busy avar. So please take this gift. Rama opened the wrapper. He saw a beautiful necklace. Necklace was good, but he had already sported a lot of jewelry. He gave it to Sita. And Sita said, "See, I am having a lot of jewelry. I don't know what to do." Then she said, "I wish to give it to someone." And Rama knew who that someone was. They were a good couple, so they didn't have to talk much. In Uttama Dampatyam, you should talk less. Gestures should be more. Right? So they just looked at their eye glances. So he knew what she meant. So he said, "Whomever you wish is worthy of this, give it to them." She called Hanuman. She gave it to Hanuman. And Hanuman took this. This is where Ramayana stops. Of course, Tulsidas goes one step ahead. He tore, he saw in that pearl whether Rama's. All that is not there in Ramayana. Now, the beauty is, Ramayanam and Bhagavatam should be seen as Eka Shastra. They're all one Shastra. It may look like similar words. In Rama Pattabhishekam, everybody was present but Indra. When Krishna lifted Govardhanam and then Indra's arrogance was subdued and then there was Govinda Pattabhishekam through Kamadhenu by Indra, Indra alone was present and nobody else. So the Lord said, if you have missed this, you come there, I know how to complete that particular calculation. Govardhana Giridhara Krishna. Every action in Bhagavatam will be a completion of what was incomplete in Ramayana. You have to see it that way. Okay. Now, this Pattabhishekam was done. Hanuman was given so much of importance. Then, Labdhva Kuladhanam Raja. Then everybody had to be given return gift. In the last 50 years, that is one thing we have learned. Right, somebody gives a gift, we have to give in return gift. Some people are very intelligent. Enakku enna kondu vande? If I go to their house, enna kuduppe? So, he had to give a return gift. Everybody was given whatever gift, organza, paithani, pochampalli, whatever, whichever silk you say. Now, Vibheeshana came. Vibheeshana said, my wife doesn't wear all this. She's very simple. What can we give? Even she won't wear Shungadi also. No, Shungadi also. He said, I want something that you treasure the most. The Lord thought for a minute. He said, my ministers, go to the Ranga Mandiram here. The Ikshvaku Kula Deivam, the family deity whom we have been worshipping as Ranganatha. Along with that Pranavakara Vimanam, lift that. He is a bodybuilder. He can take that and Vibheeshana, I give you my Kuladhanam. He gave Ranganatha from Uttar Pradesh crossroad, Uttar Pradesh main road, Uttar Pradesh to Vibheeshana. And Vibheeshana took that, and on his journey to Lanka, he stopped at a place where Dharmavarma, a Chola Raja, was performing penance, and that was in Srirangam. So he placed it there and went. So, Labdhva Kuladhanam Raja. So, Vibheeshana was given, and then you have Ranganatha here. Srimad Ramayanam is such a beautiful Shastra. It is called Mukhya Pramanam by all our Acharyas. Every word of Valmiki is a Mukhya Pramanam. It can never be disputed. If there are contradicting statements of one particular character or an incident from Valmiki Ramayanam and any other Puranam, all our Acharyas with Aikakantyam unanimously say that Ramayanam's version is the authentic one than the other Puranam. So Ramayanam is that important. It has been celebrated by Valmiki, it has been commented upon by many revered commentators, it has been translated, transcreated by stalwarts in regional languages, so many kritis, how much it has reached the islands of the archipelago nation, Indonesia to Thailand. The kings of Thailand are suffixed as Raman even till date. How much Ramayanam has travelled in the Southeast Asian countries, in some of the Eastern countries, in some of the Central Asian countries, in some of the countries of the Middle East, some countries of even the African continent, is something that research scholars and students who love to read such research works will be flabbergasted when they read such conclusions and such illustrations. Ramayanam is so important, let me tell you how. In the month of December 2021, December or November, Srimad Sriram contacted me and said, I think people need some change and they need to get back to the olden days of listening to discourses. Can we have Ramayanam? This is what our committee feels is the right thing. Can we do Samrajya? But okay, I said 9 days we can do. And coming like flown 10,000 miles or even more number of miles coming here, I generally visit the other cities. So there was immediately, most temples said, oh, we would like to have not 1 day, 7 days of lectures. So it was fixed across 10 cities from the east till the west coast. 10 cities. I had 6 Bhagavata Saptahams lined up. Each Saptaham of 7 days in 6 cities. In the west coast 3, east coast 4, I think. Then there was one Narayaniya Saptaham at New Jersey, Guruvayurappan temple. Then there was something in Boston, and then there was something in Dallas, and then there was Ramayana Navaham here. So Bhagavatam was taking prominence, like 6, 1 Narayanim. Narayanim is also Bhagavatam in a way. So all this. But then the visa in which we come, we all come through a performing artist visa called P3, and that was not given much prominence in the post-pandemic period, so it was not approved. So what was scheduled for a trip couldn't happen. So we thought that even this will get cancelled, but you won't believe, this is the only program that have come for, because the visa got approved so late. So Ramayanam had to happen. So probably that's the Icha of the Lord. Maybe Bhagavatam later in the other cities is what he has taken a sankalpam of. We tried, but this is what he has disposed, this is what he has given. So in 2022, this is the only US trip only for Ramayana Navaham that I have made to this very closely related temple of mine, which is the revered Sri Shiva Vishnu temple. Maybe this is the 4th time that I am performing here, and this has been the longest stretch of 9 days. And generally as organizers, you will all know that when there are many events happening, many of them will prefer only the weekends, and that too 1 day. 1 day, and that too, that should be a Saturday or a Sunday. Maybe Friday is the second province. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, weekdays are weekdays. So they are not given much prominence. But this had to happen. I cannot have Saturday, Sunday, day 3, day 4, next Saturday and Sunday. Then 2 months I'll have to keep it. Then it will become like one Dandakaranyam for me. So that is when we had to have it for a stretch of 9 days. Of course, there are 2 weekends, there are weekdays as well. But surprisingly, I don't know how surprised the volunteers and the bhaktas were. There were many people driving for different corners of Virginia through the weekdays to listen to this lecture. Why? Because Srimad Ramayanam, trust me, you can simplify this. After 20 and a half hours of my lectures, I can tell Ramayanam in one sentence. Rama was married, Dasharatha Putra Rama was married to Janakaputri Sita, who lived happily while they happened to go on an exile to the forest for 14 years, and in the due course she was abducted, taken to Lanka. Rama built a bridge, showcased his love for her, brought her back to Ayodhya and ruled the world ever after. 20 and a half hours. I can summarize it in one line, correct? Not even 10 seconds. So any story could be done a vistaram or could be told in a sankshepa fashion. And the biography of Rama as presented by Valmiki is nothing new to us here. Many of you elderly people would have heard stalwarts speaking, will be speaking, in all tenses you would have heard. And you would have heard Ramayana many times. And especially Valmiki Ramayana, whatever I have presented doesn't have many aberrations and many versions. It is the same version. But what pulls us again and again to listening of Ramayana? Tell me, in this world, a biography of a person being told in different corners of the world, in different points in time, and people want to keep listening to it again and again. You know, the world can't think of such a situation. They'll say, same thing, again and again. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's boring. But here is Ramayanam told by so many people in different parts of the world, time and again, but still people feel as if they are listening to it for the first time. So there must be some magic potion in it. Right? There must be something which is not visible to our eyes, which is attracting people. That is what is referred to as Bhakti. That unseen thing is Bhakti. That love for no reason. Prejudice could be a dislike for no reason. Bhakti is a liking for no reason. So that Bhakti is what is interspersed and intertwined in this beautiful scripture, which brings people of Maryland, some people from North Carolina, some people from New Jersey, many people from Virginia to this one spot through the week for 9 days. So kudos and accolades, my namaskarams to the bhakti of such Bhagavatas who have been coming for all the 9 days. My namaskarams to the temple management for Murali Mandrugo. So for being so supportive throughout. I'm sure a lot of you are also aware. This is pravachanam, this is discourse. Lasts for 2.5 hours every day. There is Parayanam which has been happening every day. It's a Sampurna Mahayajnam. The 24,000 verses every day there is Parayanam happening in. Of course the Bhagavatar had to come from India till here, but again there was a visa problem. So he has been doing it in the evening. In Bharatadesham it is the evening where it's morning here. So he has been doing it for 6.5 hours every day for 9 days. So to complete that Parayanam is happening there, Pravachanam is happening here, and then priests and Bhagavatas from Bhadrachalam, the Divya temple from the banks of river Godavari, they have come and they have been performing the Kalyanam and all the agamic procedures for the Sampurna Shri Rama Pattabhishekam Mahotsavam every day. So it's been a three-pronged approach. So there is one, the Agama based tradition, there is a Pravachanam, there is a Parayanam. And this can happen so successfully, so beautifully, so aesthetically only if like-minded Astikas and Bhagavatottamas come together. And that is what has happened here. And this also happens to be the day as we speak. In a few hours from now, Bharatadesham will be seeing the 75th year of its independence from the colonial rule. Don't think Bharatam was born 75 years back. It's a timeless civilization, an ancient and a living civilization. From the colonial rule, we thought we could do a better job. That's what we've been thinking, and we've been ruling. So, it's a 75th year. So, I'm sure this land of America has housed me as its guest for all these years. I've been coming and going, and now as well. So my namaskarams to this Punya Bhumi as well. Wherever we stay, that particular land should be revered and respected. So my namaskarams, though I may not be a citizen of this country, I've been a beneficiary of the love of the citizens of this country. So I salute this beautiful land. This also has beautiful rivers, holy rivers. Wherever Bhagavatas are, rivers become holy. So we have such beautiful temples. I have myself performed in close to 92 temples in the US. Okay, so I can tell you such well-maintained temples, such great bhaktas. So it's a Punya Bhumi. Many of you will be citizens of this country. So technically you are all maybe Indian origin Americans. So you have to be very, very respectful towards this land. Wish it well, good prosperity. So while this country being one of the most powerful democracies in the world, I come from the world's largest democracy. 4 times the population of what this country has is what I have in my country. And she is a civilization where most nations in the world didn't even know, where the people didn't know what to cover themselves with, the private parts, or whether they should be fighting and eating what. We had Pravarasena writing one Setu Bandhana Kavyam. We had one Valmiki discussing about forms of poetry. We had Aryabhatta talking about the value of Chaturadika Shatam Ashtagunam Dva Sashti Ayudascha. Things were just happening. It was so easy for them to come up with mathematical formulas and come up with codes. So when most nations didn't exist, that nation where I come from, where some of you may have your origins from, came up with some of the best facets of human sciences and history and arts and archaeology and architecture, speaking such great laurels of her. So I come from that land, so I would like to conclude this with this. Those of you who know can sing. Sujalam Suphalam Malayaj Sheetalam Shasya Shyamalam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakitayamini Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakitayamini Pullakusumita Dhrumadhala Shobhini Suhasini Sumadhura Bhashini Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram 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 Ramachandraya Janakaraja Manoharaya Mamakabhishtadaya Mahitamangalam Kosalendraya Mandahasadasa Poshanaya Vasavadi Vinodasat Varadamangalam Charu Kunkumo Veda Chandanadi Charchitaya Haraka Shobhitaya Puri Mangalam Larita Ratna Kundalaya Tulasivana Malikaya Jalaja Sadrushate Aya Charu Mangalam Vimala Rupaya Vividha Vedanta Vedyaya Sujana Chitta Kamitaya Shubhaga Mangalam Ramadasa Mudula Hridaya Tamarasa Nivasaya Swami Bhadragirivaraya Sarva Mangalam Swami Bhadragirivaraya Sarva Mangalam Swami Meri Bhumi Girivaraya Sarva Mangalam Namaskaram Kavidadhika Simhaya Kalyana Gurushalini Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Thank you so much. Thank you. The Bhagavata who's heading the committee, the board, will like to speak a few words. I would just, Tamil there is a saying, just 2 minutes, they'll be done, and then you can all leave. Just 2 minutes of your patience, your presence will be a bigger blessing to the Pattabhishekam.
I kindly request Dr. Shiva and Dr. Nagala to honor the artist. And our priest will do the Asarvadam. Priest will be doing the Asarvadam. Thank you, Mama. kindly request our chairperson to give a word of thanks.
Thanks everyone. I won't take much of your time, but I had to do this for sure. I don't know I can thank you enough, Dushyant, and I can thank you all enough. Those of you who do not know me, I'm Murali Mangalan. I'm the Board of Trustees, chairperson for this year. I'll just go just like that, be patient because I have somewhat, I'm getting so many feedbacks from different devotees, but I have to read some of those at least for your information. Otherwise, I will not be doing justice to myself. Dear Dushyanth, your amazing journey through Valmiki Ramayana with us ended today. But I believe that this is just the beginning of your journey with us here at SSVT. During the last 9 days, you have walked us through Ramayana from Balagandam through Yuddhakandam. You have carried us to Afghanistan, to Nepal, to Ayodhya, to Kishkinda, to Lenga. We followed you blindly by being completely engrossing in your speech. In that journey, you made us laugh, you made us cry, you made us electrified, and you made us, you mesmerized us. With your impeccable command of all South Indian languages, and of course Hindi, you have touched every one of us and created some sort of emotional bonding with us. We thank you profusely. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming to SSVT and taking so much pain to celebrate Srimad Bhakti Samrajya Mahotsavam with us. We have gotten several feedbacks from various devotees, so I would like to read some of the comments, especially from a particular devotee who is anonymous, but I took his permission. But he summarized everything, so I am reading that. Quote, Srimad Dushyant Sridhar is an eminent young Pravachanakarta, very famous and sought after to deliver discourses in different languages, which he mastered with passion. His deep knowledge of the epics, Puranas, and related scriptures in both Sanskrit and Tamil is unique, and he gives lectures on a wide range of topics with amazing clarity, skills in attracting the attention of audience and interpretation of events from different sources, avoiding any controversy, that's very important, on salient features of his image as a leading Pravachanakarta in India. The audience is spellbound and eager to listen to his discourses. He is endowed with unique three traits, basically three guna, that makes him most popular. Well-planned theme, meticulously articulated with authentic information from scriptures, interspersed with related stories and sound knowledge of Sanskrit and Tamil. To ensure that audience is attentive, he often poses questions, we are seeing this, which make them happy and come prepared. It is an inspiring approach cleverly designed by Sridhar to enthuse audience with motivational messages. It's a sort of wake-up call if anyone is drowsy. His thirst to promote Sanātana Dharma is laudable, which he is successfully popularizing through electronic media, YouTube, and spiritual tourism to places of worship. That is the first quality. Second quality, most important quality, is blessed by God Almighty on Sri Sridhar is his keen interest in Carnatic music and well-acquired knowledge and on Telugu and Tamil composers like Tyagaraja, Annamacharya and Pavanacham Shiva. Even Kannada stalwart Purandaradasa. His voice suits well and he gained experience in ragas and pava apt to the situation in his discourse. The audience are overwhelmed and love to listen to devotional music on various gods, Rama, Krishna, with rapt attention. This divine gift bestowed on Sri Dushyant Sridhar by the Almighty makes him a different personality altogether in discourse stages. The third pleasant approach Sri Sridhar brilliantly adopts is to provide humor. We all know that. We have experienced for the last 9 days. Thank you, Dushyant, for that. While delivering stories with his body language that keeps audience to feel happy and laugh wholeheartedly. Thus the whole atmosphere in the hall becomes one of joy and happiness with heartfelt thanks to Sri Sridhar. They leave the hall with peace of mind and utmost satisfaction on having gained knowledge on topics of relevance. The three traits or triguna exhibited by Sridhar have scientific base in as much as they provide positive energy to the listeners of these discourses and enhance their knowledge, way of life and spiritual path to achieve peace of mind. Thus, both physically and mentally, the audience owe much to Sri Sridhar, the spiritual doctor. Now unquote. Thanks again for your magical presence for the past 9 days. Thanks a lot to all devotees who have been physically present here and supporting the temple. I can't believe that even on a thunderstorm day with power outage, there are more than 75 people present in the Vasanta Mandapam, of course, on that Wednesday night. Thanks for those who watched the program live online. Thanks for your support to the temple. You are our strength. Thanks to the Board of Trustees. My special thanks to priests and staff members. Thanks to all volunteers. Without them, this couldn't have happened. Thanks to the IT team. And thanks to everyone who directly, indirectly involved with this program. I would now request you all again, one more time, to put your hands together.
Thank you for the vote of thanks. In a Korean second, in that I have to thank someone. Of course, Murliji, all the members and all the Astikas. In the 9 days, I have been hosted. Of course, my primary host is my very good family friend, Shriman Srinivasa Kalavudi. Thanks to him and his family. They have been religiously bringing me 20 hours of Upanyasams in the 9 days plus 22 hours of road travel. Alongside, I've been hosted on many of the days by many Bhagavatas, I think 10 families. So I have had about 7 varieties of idli. So to all the hospitality that I've received, I have to thank. I'll give back to Murli.
Thank you, I'm done, but I would request you to give a big round of applause and a standing ovation one more time. Thank you. Thank you.